What's turn 3? He's going to pass them both on the wet part of the racetrack.
Which is a few miles out from the big city of Marseille here in France for what is going to be the first French Grand Prix at GPVWC in just about 5 years. I was there 5 years ago, albeit casting on the Super Cup. And if I don't sound like Jake Sanson to you, then, well, that's because I'm not. My name's James Kirk, filling in for Jake as he goes off on his own escapades in Belgium in real life. And I've brought with me a bit of a superstar team to fill in the gap as Jake does his own things. And so, joining me today on commentary, first of all, is my first ever long-term co-commentary partner, Lewis Mcglade. You've been in so many great e-racing things recently. It must be a little bit weird to be back here at GPVWC now.
Yeah, it's also a French Grand Prix that me and you are commentating on. I was there for that Super Cup race. I remember back in the day. It's good fun to be back. To be back on the broadcasting circuit here in GPVWC and at the top level as well in Super League. Looking like it's super close out there today as well. So we're going to have hopefully a great race and on a new track for I'm sure most of the drivers.
And joining us also is a man who we're going to introduce via video. We talk about the circuit Paul Ricard. Well, joining us live in the box for the first time is top-level single-seater sim racing driver Michi Hoyer, and here is he with a track guide to the circuit Paul Ricard. We'll be back with you in a bit.
This is Michi Hoyer from ACR Suckspeed, powered by the SimPit and SimNews.tv, and we are sitting live in the ACR Suckspeed car and driving around Paul Ricard race circuit, which is host of round 7 of the GPVWC 2018 Super League season. Once again, I'm very delighted to be able to take you out for track presentation. So we set our brake bias for sector 1 because you want to have a good car that rotates around corners. Final turn onto the long straight. When the lights go green, it's going to be a huge sprint towards turn 1, which is a high speed chicane. So turn 1 left, immediately after that right, carry all the speed, short acceleration zone towards turn 3, 4, 5. All of them needs to be very stuck to the inside of the apexes in order to have perfect setup for the next corner. That was turn 5, acceleration, be patient. Turn 6 then is going to be full throttle into turn 7. Onto the back straight we go, DRS wide open. Brake bias a little more to the front because the next braking zone requires a stable car. Into turn 8, 9. A narrow chicane that completely breaks the fluid rhythm of this track. Onto the second part of the back straight we go. Brake bias towards the back again because all the upcoming corners needs rotation. Turn 10, full throttle, even with a full fuel tank. Into turn 11, hit the first apex, coasted towards the outside before then taking it on full throttle up to turn 12, a double apex left hand corner where you want to skip the first apex to take the second for a perfect exit into turn 13, the right-hand bench. Entering turn 14, need to slow down the car while going through 14 in order to have the perfect approaching speed for turn 15, which is the final turn of the circuit here around Paul Ricard for the GPVWC Round 7 Super League race. So I hope you guys are aware of what the track is about, and now I wish you so much fun seeing the drama here in GPVWC at Paul Ricard.
So, welcome back then. There is your in-depth look at the Circuit Paul Ricard, and it is at this point where we welcome into the casting booth Mr. Michi Hoyer. Thank you so much for doing that presentation. Thank you so much for joining us here today. If you could select a particular part of the track, as we're just about to head into qualifying now, that these drivers will be struggling with on the lower fuel. Which one of those particular corners do you think is the one that we're going to be looking out for where the most mistakes will happen?
Yeah, good evening everyone, first of all. Well, looking at this entire track, I have to say it's probably turn 11, which is going to be a bummer, because it has some kind of a double apex, and you hit the first apex and you go incredibly wide to the outside to then go full throttle so early, and you then get the very perfect and clean exit. Before heading into turn 12 with just this double apex left-hander where you skip the first apex completely despite the bullets being right there catching your eyes, in order to then hit the second apex. So I would say this is the area where you find or lose the 10th for pole position.
Green light is go, and our drivers are out on track for 15 minutes. Of trying to set as quick a lap time as they can. Then, of course, if you want to, you can set as many laps. But if you need to refuel, because obviously these guys are going to be on the lowest fuel possible, you need to return to the pits and then go out again. In some other e-racing series, you'll see them being able to escape out on track. Not the case here. We're going for as much realism as possible. And Lewis, let's talk a little bit about the similarities that Paul Ricard has to another track, which we were kind of discussing pre-show between the three of us, the Circuit of the Americas. And we saw this in particular in effect yesterday in the Super Cup, where some were going for low downforce setups to try and take the biggest advantage of the Mistral straight, the back straight for you guys at home. And some of them were going for higher wing settings to try and make their way around some very difficult corner complexes. So do you have a personal preference yourself, and can you see why similarities are drawn between the two?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's loads of tarmac runoff. That's one. But no, from a serious perspective, of course, the way it balances kind of like long straights with tight, twisty, and tricky corner sections. There's a bit of elevation change. There's a kind of a bit of everything on this track. As much as when you look at the track map, it doesn't really look like it. It's quite complex for a setup. Now, obviously, me and you are both, and I'm sure Mitch as well, have all driven Circuit of the Americas and stuff like that. Now, my preference there was to go for a high downforce setup. Now, I haven't really raced it since rFactor 1, obviously a long time ago, back in 2014, which we did politely look back at not too long ago. Yeah. I went for a higher downforce setup because the way I saw it was that I'd be able to outbrake everyone and stuff like that. And my cornering speed would be much higher, and it worked. It really, really worked then. However, looking back, obviously, as you were telling me yesterday, the high downforce, you have smaller gears. It's you make your life a bit more difficult on the straight. So it's a real tough balancing act. But at the moment, they don't have to worry about overtaking. They just have to worry about getting that fast lap out. And normally, higher downforce is the better way.
Yeah, certainly. I would healthily agree with you there. And certainly for these guys in the Super League, we have a much easier job of trying to set a lap, since if you were with us 2 days ago with the Formula Challenge, they had some nasty wet weather to try and deal with. And so the Super Cup guys yesterday, they were the first ones to do a dry qualifying. These Super League guys, they know what they're doing. To be fair, they're the best drivers in the career ladder. So you'd expect them to be able to deal with whatever's going to be thrown at them. And in terms of our qualifying form guide as well, only 3 people have taken pole positions in the 7 rounds that we've had. Deval, of course, going pole and then bust in Monaco. Capit's taken a couple, but the man who's leading that pole chart at the moment is Alex Siebel. His teammate actually just coming across the line to set the first fastest lap of 1:27.969. But we need to really have a little chat about Alex Siebel because, well, there he goes onto provisional pole position by 7 tenths. We've seen Super Cup champions, Lewis, come through the career ladder and do well in Super League. They take the step up historically quite smoothly, like a duck to water, so to speak. Alex Siebel's been doing a lot better than most, though. Leading the championship, the most pole positions so far this season. He's having a bit of a belter of a start to the season.
Well, yeah, he's done a superb job. Obviously didn't start out quite so well in the first 2 rounds with a double retirement. But since then, since finding his feet, 3 wins, the other a podium out of the 6, it's been a really, really solid start. Helped, of course, by having a great car and a great team behind him. And someone who knows what they're doing on setup. Obviously, I'm sure Alex knows what he's doing on setup as well. But like, he's done so well with the opportunity that he's been given. And here, to start out, his first flying lap, to put out a belt like that, a 27.2, straight away, first lap in qualifying, that I can't tell you what a confidence boost that is to do your first lap in qualifying, to have it that quick. And then, because it means for the other 10 minutes of the session, you've got time to sort of take it slow, cruise about a bit, just try and find that little extra time without sort of leaving it until the last minute. So he's put himself in a really, really good stead to make that another pole position this year.
Now, there are a number of penalties, I should say, from last round in Canada. There's so many, and there's so many different variations that can go onto the starting grid that we're not really going to cover them. But something which I do want to cover is the car development for France, and also, in a sense, the tyre selection for France. And this is where I'm going to bring Michi back in, because you've already raced at Circuit Paul Ricard over at Formula Sim Racing. You know what it's like to qualify and to race around here. For those of you who are new to the Super League, each of the teams has their own complement of tyres. And so we range from, it's very similar to Formula 1, where we've got ultra soft going all the way up to hard tyres. The colours will become very apparent to you as we go through the rest of the session. The only car to not select the ultra soft for this round is flag to flag. I don't know whether, Michi, that will make that much of a difference in the race, whether the super soft's going to be better in race trim. But on top of that, also, I want you to talk a little bit about Epic Racing, who have kind of stolen the march in development recently, and in theory, have a car which on race fuel is 2 tenths at the very least faster than all of its rivals. Some really fascinating choices, both in terms of the tyres and the upgrades going into the Circuit Paul Ricard.
Yeah, that is actually very true. I mean, Epic, with this major development on the weight, if I'm not mistaken, have selected the softest compounds available for this race.
Yep.
So that is definitely the right direction they're going, because if you have a light car, you can easily put on the softer tires, unleashing the extra speed they give. However, with a lighter car, you're not going to scrap them too much. So yeah, it's definitely going to be very interesting, since it's, as I said, that turn 11, 12, and literally the front left is dying around the circuit, because apart from 2 or 3 slow right-hand corners, all the other right-hand corners are pretty much high speed. Like talking about turn 2, talking about turn 3. I would even consider the exit of 6 onto the back straight as being a high-speed corner for the tires. Then at the end of the back straight, you have this quick turn 10, which you can drive flat out with race fuel. And then you go into that endless long right-hand turn 11. So that is when the front left is going to be killed throughout the circuit, throughout the race. And having a light car is definitely an opportunity here. Like you can, yeah, get away from the disadvantage of having less power or having less downforce by having less weight on the car. So it's an interesting approach. Definitely surprised a couple of people there. And as the scrutiny just pointed out, they got by the fastest car on the grid by a mile. So very interesting to see how they're gonna do in the race.
Yeah, 2/10, of course, doesn't sound like much when you say it's only 2/10, but considering how close the field is and how closely matched the cars have been throughout the year so far, actually it makes sense that they go for the softest compound of tyres, because they might actually have that much of an advantage to maybe make an extra pit stop. We'll see how it works for Flag to Flag anyway, who haven't selected the ultra soft, kind of taking the hit now in qualifying to maybe go longer in the race. And we'll delve a little bit more into each of the different tyre strategies once the race comes around. But we've literally got just under 6.5 minutes left. And Lewis, that provisional pole time from Alex Siebel has not been touched. The rest of the top 5 is Ricardo Costa, who picked up his first podium of the year just 2 weeks ago in Canada. He's P2 for Hawkeye, with Dennis Jordan, Peter Burlak, and Boya Milan.
I was just watching that.
Yeah, well,
I was watching those sectors unfold. I was like, he's on a good one. It's Fournier. He set a purple first sector and a purple final. His middle sector wasn't so great. That's where the ACR Zach speed's a little bit quicker. But whoa, what a lap!
He ruined my flow there.
What I just said, it's a purple third sector, and that is a sector where the weight is definitely playing a big role. That is turn 11, that is turn 12. And to me, that is no surprise that this sector is going purple towards Epic Racing.
Yeah, watch out for Boya Milan as well, because he was not on the lap that he's currently on. I think he might come in and get some fresh tyres. But on the lap before this, he set a purple sector as well in the first sector. So watch out for him to move up from 6th position as well.
You know, I was watching the scrutiny with you, Michi, actually. And by the way, if you haven't seen it, great show, goes into a lot of detail about the individual upgrades and what sort of engines people are using. Of course, we've got our own engine manufacturers in the WTF1 Superleague, as well as close to Formula One as you can find in sim racing. We can guarantee you that much. And I was just thinking, Fournier has had a brilliant start to the year. For a brand new team to come in, first of all, and take a win is exceptional. For a brand new team to come in with someone like Fournier, who is not his rookie season in the Super League. He's had a few races last year in 2017, but he's by no means considered one of, or at least going into this season, wasn't considered one of the quote-unquote top guys. And yet there he was, taking his first Super League win at Australia. And I just got thinking, Lewis, this is his best chance. This is Epic's best chance to win their second race of the year. And how romantic would it be for Geoffrey Fournier to win the first French Grand Prix at GPVWC in 5 years? It's almost as if the script is writing itself.
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone always values the home Grand Prix slightly higher, even if it's in sim racing. You know, it's a virtual world, it's a virtual track, but it's still, I mean, every time that we came back to Great Britain in the Formula Challenge, the Super Cup, it always just meant a little bit more. There was just that little bit more push to just like, I want to win on home soil. And for Fournier, I'm sure that's the same. He's kind of sitting in the pit at the moment. I think he's leaving it until the last minute to start his final run. But he's sitting there pretty good. Siebel also sitting in the pit lane. Dennis Jordan also sitting in the pit lane.
May want to have a look at Stuart Kastrup.
Yeah, he's just up to 7th. Good job. Yeah, purple first sector from him as well. How very interesting.
Exactly.
To get a purple sector is pretty good for an Adonis card that's been struggling this year. For Yuri Kazdorp, I think he's been a very shrewd signing from the team, actually. Started back down in Super Cup, as have a number of drivers over the careers of both Super League and Super Cup. Sometimes mid-season changes, they happen. I think for Kazdorp, Michi, it's very much been justified. He's a strong driver. We see him most times in endurance categories, but clearly showing that he's got the pace here in Super League as well.
Very true. He's also done a good job on WFG, so he's definitely kind of a guy to watch at.
Yeah, that's a good callback.
Yeah, Yuri's someone that I raced, obviously, when I did the Endurance Championship over in Sim Racing Club. We did a year of that, and he was in one of the teams that was Revolution back then, that's now Velez. And obviously, you know, from that time of racing against him, I knew how quick he was. Kind of struggled in leagues outside of that, but then I think he's starting to find his feet now. He was quite quick in Super Cup. Obviously, I replaced him at Baku in YTF1. And yeah, he's a absolutely solid driver. I'll say that. And so for him to be in that Edness car, I think that team will move forward as the season goes on. They'll move back towards the front as the season progresses. Like as we know, we've seen Adonis do in previous years.
They are a strong team, narrowly missing out on the 2016 constructors title, of course, and the drivers title. For reasons out of their control, sadly, but we're into the final minute and a half now of qualifying. Both Siebel and Fournier actually going out to do the final laps. Everyone out. People who are perhaps a little bit off the boil at the moment. Risto Capit down in P8 for ACR's Zach Speed. I think Jake Sandson's gone over all too many times how it must be pretty frustrating to have a driver like Rudy Van Buren come in and dominate, and now see Alex Siebel coming in and do the same thing. Well, Risto Capis just decided to give up on his warm-up lap as well, so at best he's going to be starting P8. But I think Mr. De Vries, which by the way, I completely forgot to introduce Mr. Gerrit De Vries on cameras. Thank you very much for doing a brilliant job back there as well. We should maybe have a little focus on Alex Siebel because right now, Fournier and Siebel, they're the class of the field. They're 2/10 separate, and we're going to go on board with him now to try and see whether he can pick up his 4th pole position of the year.
Yeah, it should be a good lap. Well, hopefully we'll watch this one all the way through. Just one quick point whilst we start this lap, though, is Yuri Kastop, I think, is on the medium tyres, which is odd.
Is he really?
Yes.
Yes.
I wondered if that was a glitch or not. I think he may have come out on the wrong tyres, or maybe he's just doing a little bit of a test. But either way, he's out on the mediums at the moment, circling around from obviously 7th position. The other point I was going to make was the top 15 are separated by a second, or less than a second. And that's the top 15 cars, all different cars. So this field, if you think it's not close, think again. It's very, very close. Is Alex Siebel now on that back stretch?
Yeah, we're going to be heading into the
purple first sector.
Purple first sector. Okay, that's interesting to know. Really grinding his way across the curb to make the turn 8 apex back onto the Mistral straight now. There's a little groan there. Do you think he's lost a bit of time, Michi?
I mean, you have various possibilities on lines here. It's kind of difficult. I would just say he lost a little bit of time going through 11 now. Let's have a look about turn 12.
Yeah, he's lost time in the second sector.
Yeah,
he's destroying those tyres. Did you see how much they were smoking?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
He was a little bit too early on the first apex for 12, I would say. So if he lost time, he did it there. Final turn looks pretty much all right. Speeding up towards the finish line.
Oh, for Fournier. Yeah.
And yeah, it's pole position for Fournier.
Although, keep an eye on Dennis Jordan. Yeah, so Fournier's gone a little bit quicker than his previous best in the second sector. We've also got Peter Burlack and Dennis Jordan both doing decent times. Keep on Peter Burlack actually, because that's a pretty decent first sector and a pretty decent second sector. So this could be provisional pole for Peter Burlack coming out of the corner.
Dennis Jordan improves to P3. Fournier does not improve his P1 time. What about Burlack? He improves up to P3. And for a man who struggled in qualifying this season, that's a pretty good job for Peter Burlack. Ricardo Costa then being demoted down to P5. And it seems like everybody else has come across the line in decent shape. I don't see anyone majorly improving. And so, for the first time this year, and at his home Grand Prix as well, Geoffrey Fournier takes pole position for Epic Racing from championship leader Alex Siebel. Peter Burlack and Dennis Jordan will round off row 2. And ultimately, Michi, that's a bit of a special one from Jeff Fournier. It's one thing to beat a man brimming with confidence from such a good start to the campaign, but in his own way, Fournier has had as equally a good a start himself. This has got to be one of the highlights, though.
Yeah, this is very true. I mean, a home Grand Prix can always have two sort of impacts on you. The one is like it's boosting you massively with motivation, giving you the extra speed. Like in case of Geoffrey Fournier, that obviously might be the case. The other effect might be you're so much pressure on your own shoulders, and you develop that pressure by yourself, and you some sort of crack a bit under it. So far, so good for Geoffrey Fournier. However, you guys mentioned Yuri Kastrop being on the medium tire, and I've just scrolled back a little bit in the tape, He just did the lap time, the 127.6, which put him on 7th place. He did that on the ultra soft tire. However,
Right.
the final run he had, he did it on medium, but he was not able to improve, so he put in a 128.2, I believe, which was a good 6/10 of his provisional best. Maybe he tried to somehow still increase his starting position, and also being on a very different type of strategy.
Also, speaking of Yuri Kazdorp, and I'm assuming Tobias has also sent a private message to our race director, but Yuri Kazdorp put one publicly that I think they're both having their fastest times removed. Because Yuri did request it publicly. So that time that he did on the Ultrasofts, I don't know what his second fastest time was, but that time he did on the Ultrasofts, he is not confident in.
It was, in fact, the time on the medium tire, which was the second fastest. It's a 128.3, so that puts him into
P20th.
Yeah.
So he's going to start from 20th place, probably a little bit higher because some other grid drops and stuff, but not the ideal start to Yuri Kazdorp after setting what was a pretty damn decent time.
Yeah, that's a shame, but ultimately a little bit worried that a back of the grid penalty beckons if he's found for cutting. Well, enough of looking to the future for now. I think it's time to refresh our memories about what happened 2 weeks ago. Here is your highlights package for the 2018 WTF1 Canadian Grand Prix.
5 lights are on. Let's race at Montreal. Oh, contact! Jordan spun around. Oh, Parker's off at the first chicane. Costa, 3rd position now, having got himself back into position. That's great work for the Hawkeye team. Martini and Klopp having a terrific battle into the chicane. They bang wheels.
Maybe this is the start of a comeback for Capit.
Capit definitely using DRS to close in on Siebel down the back straight. Oh, and Siebel! Siebel! That could be the moment that decides this race. Butcher has swept past Jordan after an amazing bit of driving. There's Ben Horrell diving up the inside of my Oh my word, that's amazing from Tyan. Goodness me, that looked like Burlak into the wall.
And not for the first time this season, he's going to be a very happy German as he will claim victory at the Canadian Grand Prix for Alex Siebel.
All right then, so welcome back then from the highlights package. Alex Siebel taking his 3rd win of the season. The only man to even take more than 1 win all season long. And I feel like, there we go, we've just switched over to 8 p.m. And so now we welcome everyone joining us live on the WTF1 Facebook page. Welcome along to the WTF1 French Grand Prix, where we've just seen qualifying won by the home hero, Geoffrey Fournier. And since we've just finished our highlights package for Canada, since we're at a nice segue, let's take a little look at the championship standings going into round 7 of 18. The gap between Siebel and Capit, it's not much. It's only 4 points. But keep in mind that Siebel has non-scored twice this season, whereas Capit has only non-scored once in a car which is generally expected to always be in the battle for that podium, if not the win. Jarl Tyen, consistent point scorer, but more and more often getting really hampered by back of the grid penalties by cutting in qualifying. He's a further 10 points back on 81. We then have Geoffrey Fournier. Now, after that win, he is not taken a podium since. I've been saying throughout qualifying and through pre-practice and pretty much since we found out how good this epic car has been after the upgrades came through. I think this is the best chance to take a second win of the season, honestly, and rounding out the top 5. Such an impressive campaign for Dennis Jordan, the German. Picked up 2 podiums already, definitely taken a step up in quality this year. And look at the constructors. Zaxby starting to pull out a real gap on Edge Esports. 50 points between the two is then a further 29 back to Epic Racing, Evolution, and Hawkeye rounding out the top 5. Hawkeye, of course, picking up their first podium with Ricardo Costa last time out. And so, Lewis, we have the better part of 7.5 minutes left of free practice now. Let's go over an interesting point to bring up, in that it's midway through the season now. We're in this strange position where it's not crunch time, but you're also not looking to go straight out the gates and win the race at corner 1. I'll cast your mind back to Super Cup yesterday, where we had a bizarre situation where you have Stefan Ruol and Masai Mlinic. They're both in the same team. They're both fighting for the championship, but they were both on different strategies in race 1. And Ruol left Mlinic to his own devices, let him go through, because he was the faster driver, understandably, on a different strategy. Into France, they were 8 points separated, with Ruol in front of Mlinic. Out of France, they were 18 points separated, Mlinic in front of Ruol. I know that people say that once you're mid-season, you kind of have to settle down and just focus on getting points on the board, but I think that's a bit of a myth, honestly. I think people are still going to be looking to score as good a points as they can. And considering how close that battle is up at the top, with Siebel, with Capit, I mean, Tyen not far behind either, there's no opportunity for these guys to let up as we head into the race.
Yeah, well, I mean, see, this is the thing with that whole, we're mid-season, we should start thinking about points. For the end of the season, we should start thinking about points. I think quite a lot of drivers think about points throughout the season. Like, you've always got to keep this in your mind. This is a whole part of management of a season. I know this is a long season, there's a lot of rounds, but it's a whole part of management over a year-long campaign. In a championship like this, you have to always be thinking about points, whether that's in Super League, Super Cup, or Formula Challenge. You know, you've always got to keep that in your mind, and you've kind of got to drive smart. And these guys should be, I think, thankfully, for the most part, are the smartest, fastest that we've got in GPVWC. And so they'll always be thinking about that stuff. When it comes to inter-team battles, obviously we do have one here in Super League. And it's kind of a tricky one to manage because they're both super, super quick. And it's kind of one of those ones where you just got to leave them to do their own thing.
Yeah.
You know, because as soon as you start implying any sort of team orders, of course, that's not really a case here anyway. But as soon as you start applying team orders or at least saying, oh, no, don't attack, or don't do this, don't do that, then you're kind of like, you're almost taking favoritism over one driver over the other. So you've just got to trust that they know what they're doing and let them do it.
You think after 5 years of commentary, I'd know what I'm doing when we're going live on a different platform. We should introduce ourselves, by the way. He was Lewis Mcglade. I'm James Kirk, and I'm going to bring in top single-seater sim racer Michi Hoyer now to sort of carry on with this point about consistency. Now, I've delved into the individual records of these drivers, and I'd like to bring up the curious case of Tobias Olsen, who is a Mad Cape driver. Now, Tobias is hardly the least experienced in the Super League field. I was actually surprised to find out that he has raced 30 races in this competition. But consistency is key, Michi. And out of 30 races, which Olsen has contested, he has retired from 18 of those. It's no surprise, to me at least, to see Mad Cape so far down the standings if a driver like Olsen isn't even finishing half the races that he's competing in.
Yeah, I mean, consistency while finishing races definitely is the key. I might have a look to a different series right now where we have a driver that has not won a single race, that just got 3 podiums, but he got 5 finishes. And because of the other teammate is doing vastly the same, not being in the top notch, but neither DNFing all the time, that team is currently leading a championship by 40 points because it's the other teams that just like got a winner here, a winner there, a DNF next time, some podium, and then the DNF again. So it's all about the consistency, and obviously when going for a championship, either team or either a driver, you always want to have a look at your consistent rate. You always want to get the maximum out of every race and not going to risk that one move that might kill the opponent and you, or give you a penalty of some sort. So it's like, it's like a very old phrase, but the one that keeps it on the tarmac, on the black stuff, and the one that keeps it clean throughout the season, it's gonna be the winner in the end of the season most of the time, despite any single results.
Well, I cast your mind, James, back to 2014. It's something that I keep bringing up as an excellent example of consistency. We look at 2014, you look at the World Sports Series using the Flat 6 modern rFactor 1, and Jesper Nielsen, or Tolborg as he was back then, who ended up winning the championship. Now, the interesting point about this was it was a 20-race championship. We had 6 different championship protagonists heading into the final round, and Jesper didn't win a single race, despite being very close until one of your drivers got involved. I know. Not satisfied. No, but despite being, say, never winning a race over the entire season, he still won the championship, and by a comfortable margin as well. All throughout, just being consistent. He was always up there. Every round, it was on the podium, on the podium, on the podium. He just kept it up there. And despite being one of his main championship protagonists was David Yunt, who was in a part of a team that I was helping manage, which was just an immensely complex scenario. It just shows how important to just say 20 races, didn't take a single win, still won the championship. That shows a man who is thinking about the points from the start of the season until the end.
Oh, for sure. And if you're just joining us and hearing and thinking, what's the World Sports Series? If you're interested in GPVWC in general after watching this broadcast, feel free to head over to the GPVWC YouTube page, where they've got all of our historical broadcasts. The World Sports Series, a Porsche Championship, well worth watching that one from 2012, I think it began, through to 2016 when it ended. But yeah, it's exactly kind of what Epic Racing has been going about. To be fair, the team has really got their stuff together for this season. They've got a great partnership with Radical Sports Cars, and so they're running a beautiful yellow and red Radical livery as well. They won a race at the first race, and since then they've only had one non-score, and that was Borja Milan in Azerbaijan, in which that's a race where really sort of it's 52 car pickup. You throw them everywhere, and whichever ones you pick up first, those are the ones that score the points. They've just been at it so much in good point scoring positions that they find themselves third in the championship. And I noticed that we've got a couple of new people joining us in the Super League today. So Peter Schultz driving for Flag to Flag, their reserve driver, of course. I also notice our new man to the championship, Manuel Martini, who won race 1 in the Super Cup just yesterday. So we know he's got pace. He's been picked up by Red Bull Street Fighter, but he's been loaned up to Hawkeye.
Yeah, it's not one that now.
Curious, yeah, and especially given that Ben Horrell, who drives for Red Bull Street Fighter, recently announced his retirement, which is going to happen at the end of the season. It's a weird one, but either way, we wish those two the best of luck. And actually, I think Martini's a little bit of a start. Also, I realized that Bart DeVos makes a return to the Super League for the first time in goodness knows how long. A long-time Kernau Sport driver. That's bringing a name back from a few years.
He got a podium in Monaco, if I recall correctly, in 2016.
I'm pretty convinced he did. I
think he might have had a penalty to take it away. I remember there was something about that towards the end of that race with Bart DeVos. But yeah, it was with Kernau, and I distinctly remember him being in the fight for the podium, because I remember thinking, how is this guy doing this in that car? I think it was like a 6-stop race as well.
Oh, it was a weird one, wasn't it? But
yeah.
To be fair, though, he's got so much Super League experience, that 4-storm racing. I think he's a great selection. Menno Klon not in the car. I'm not sure why. I wasn't expecting Bart to be in. Otherwise, I would have checked up the history for him. But I think he's going to be a good partner to Duval, because they've had a bit of an up and down season. They've taken a pole position. They've taken a podium. But we go back to that point about consistency. There is a reason why they are down in 7th place. And that is because Klons has not been scoring and has retired from 3 races. Duval, as fast as he is, has gotten involved in incidents and also retired once himself. As the rFactor 2 man says his usual rhetoric, we are going to find out whether that sort of line of thought continues. 50 seconds until we go out on our formation lap. 53 laps to race.
Interesting point about Duval. He's racing from VR for the first time.
He's racing in VR?
For the first time. Yeah, that is a ballsy move.
It's a bold one, isn't it? Have you ever raced in VR, Michi?
Yes, and I've gone sick from it, so hats off. No, honestly, virtual reality can give you somewhat of an advantage because of you finally being able to turn the head to left and right, which is the equivalent of clicking the button usually on a non-VR setup. However, I found the current generation of VR classes to be not quality-wise at the point where I want it to be in order to race safely. So it's going to be interesting how Liam will end up in this race.
Absolutely. Let's take you through your grid then for the WTF1 French Grand Prix. Jeff Fournier, the home hero, on pole position for Epic Racing by Radical Sports Cars. We then have Alex Siebel, the championship leader for ACR Zaxby P2. Row 2 is rounded out by Petter Burlak for Edge and Dennis Jordan for Evolution, with Ricardo Costa P5 and Borja Milan P6. We then have Risto Capit, a disappointing qualifying for him, but he starts up in P7 due to penalties. Liam Duval in virtual reality then, starting P8. Going to be fascinating to see how he gets on. On his debut in the Super League for Hawkeye Racing, Manuel Martini, the Italian, starts P9 ahead of Bart de Vos. Actually, to be fair, P10 on your return is pretty solid, so the Belgian doing a great job there. Chris Shepherd, someone I completely forgot to talk about. He's another newcomer in the Red Archer in P11 with Argo Tida, P12 for Eval. And then have Dino Paolini, who scored a fantastic P6 in Canada, actually, from Zurich, starting P13. He's ahead of two-times champion David Feiduk. Still problems for Nordschen Racing as they struggle in 2018. Florian Gaia, after a great qualifying in Canada, sort of brought back to earth this time for Red Bull Street Fighter. He's down in P15, ahead of Mark Hutchinson in P16 for Flag to Flag. We then have Pedro Gomez for Red Archer, ahead of Alex Cooper for Nordschen. Mark Veit ahead of Erhan Yuyovsky, the first of the Adonis, actually, Erhan, down in P20. Peter Schulze filling in for Mcglade is P21 for Flag to Flag, with Wupke Hoekstra, P22 for Zurich. We then have Kazdorp down in P23 for Adonis, with Tobias Olsen in P24 for Mad Cape. And the back of the grid is rounded out by Tom Parker for Evolution, Wright Kilk for Eval, and Jarl Tyen for Edge Esports, with Ben Horrell for the second of the Red Bull Street Fighters, starting from the pit lane. Considering that there has been a number of incidents in Turn 1 and Turn 2, Lewis, across Formula Challenge and Super Cup over the past couple of days, maybe starting from the pit lane, not such a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had the thing of, like, sometimes if I start in the middle of the pack or towards the back, I'll just go, do you know what, I'll just start from the pit lane. It's probably safer. But, yeah, we'll see if that gamble plays off. I'm sure I'll be fine. The thing, though, with these drivers, because they're slightly better than, hopefully, than that of Super Cup, they should have a lot more experience with how to handle their cars and stuff like that. The expectation of a crash at Turn 1 is actually just considerably lower, because you'd expect them to know roughly what they're doing. Either way, just a quick point. Peter Schultz is on the soft tyres, and then Wupke Hoekstra to Tom Parker, so Kazdorp and Olsen as well, all on the mediums. Yeah. And then Jarl Tyen starting at the back is on the super softs. Everyone else, I believe, with the exception of soft tyre runner Ben Horrell in the pit lane, is on the ultra softs. Oh, Mark Hutchinson's also on the supers.
Yeah, of course, Flag to Flag not bringing ultras to this race, so they go on a very different strategy anyway. Majority of the field starting on ultras. We saw how quickly the soft compound ran out in the Super Cup yesterday. I imagine we're going to be seeing a pit stop in the first 10 laps, perhaps. We're all going to find out. It's a leap into the unknown here at the Circuit Paul Ricard, as we wait for the lights now. 53 laps ahead of us in his first French Grand Prix in 5 years. We have 1, we have 2, 3, and 4. And when the 5th light extinguishes, we're racing. And off the line then, it looks like a pretty decent start from Siebel. Fournier got away as well. Dennis Jordan looking pretty decent as well there in P4 as we head into Turn 1, a very difficult first section. Fournier going a little wide. Petter Burlak looking up the inside of Siebel. Oh, a bit of a snap there from Siebel as he comes into contact with Fournier, I think. And going into the right-hander of Turn 3, I think Siebel might have this. They go side by side through Turn 4. Siebel is ahead, and so that's a great early move there for the German. Burlak ahead of Jordan. Costa still there. Bit of contact in the lower half of the field. I think Martini's lost a couple of positions. Chris Shepherd up to P10, and David Feiduk's had a blinder of the first few corners.
You should have seen his start. I saw it from the back. I was like looking, and he was 5 wide going down that start-finish straight. Made him move around all of them, up into 9th place. That was an outstanding start there from the former world champion.
I was going to say, start of a champion, that one, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Really struggling this season. Maybe he heard me through the waves of the air or something, and he's decided, right, I'm going to prove James wrong. I'm going to show him that Nordgen is going to be doing well this season from round 7 onwards, as we head then into the final sector of this track, the place where all of the named corners are. We're just going to be heading through turn 13 now. This is Du Village, and this is when my GCSE French pays off, through Delatour and into the final right-hand hairpin of DuPont for the first time of asking. At the end of lap 1 then, it's been a good start for the championship leader. It's Siebel who leads from Fournier, Burlak, Costa Jordan, Milan, Capit, Duval, Fidek and Shepard.
Yeah, 5 different teams in the top 5. Now that tells you how close and how much of a difference the driver makes in the Super League this season. So it's looking very, very good and very colourful towards the front. But Alex Siebel, I mean, Jeffrey Fournier, he's going to struggle here, I reckon, to get by Alex Siebel again, because you know what this guy's like. He's won 3 races this year. Adding another one onto that from this position, I think he's the man for the job.
And Michi, to come to you, put yourself in Jeffrey Fournier's shoes. You've been there before, a rookie in the top level of a grassroots single-seater league, and one as big as the WTF1 Superleague, of course. Is now the time to sort of just settle down and realise that the race isn't won on lap 2 and the tyre strategy still have to play out?
Yeah, very true. That is something that definitely needs to get in his mind quickly. I mean, lap 1 is always a special thing. And you really saw the nerves cracking a little bit on his, like he was sliding and coming across in a little drift up to turn 4, I think 3 times already at lap 1, which eventually lost him the position there. So all he needs to do is now keep cool, settle down, get into this rhythm, and then say, all right, I'm gonna have an attack on Siebel later in this race again.
Yeah, sorry guys, I just saw a purple first sector and then a sensational move from Liam Duval around the outside of Risto Capit at turn 10. Really, really good, round the outside, all the way around, kept it there, and he's now up into 7th position, Risto Capit down to 8, which is not what Risto wants when he's in that championship fight, and his teammate is leading the race.
I'll tell you what, you may be encased in a blind box when you're going into virtual reality, but you could see pretty clearly there how to make his way past the Estonian up into P7. Risto down to P8, a bit of a struggle in these opening few laps then. To round up the rest of the point scorers, of course, here in Super League, we reward the top 15 drivers for their efforts, as opposed to the top 10 in Formula 1. Martini currently at the head of those final 5, with Hutchinson, Gaia, De Vos and Tida rounding out the top 15. De Vos actually with a pretty bad start behind Gaia now, who's up into P13, using a bit of slipstream to get past him. Actually, it is lap 3, so DRS would have been in effect as well. DRS, of course, just like Formula 1, our 2 major zones are on the first part of the Mistral Straight there, on the exit of turn 6, and down the home straight as well, as Chris Shepard has now lost the position to Manuel Martini as he moves his way back up into the top 10.
Yeah, this battle for 10th place is absolutely manic. Martini's just got past Shepard. Then you've got Hutchinson, Gaia, De Vos, Tedder, Paulini. This goes back a country mile. This is basically in Belgium at the end of this train. They are superbly close.
Well, I want to have a closer look into Mark Hutchinson because he started in P16. He is on the Supersoft compound, which is the softest compound available for flag to flag. Remember, they are the only team not having picked a single Ultrasoft for the race. However, Hutchinson also down on his engine wear, so his engine had a 32% left. So it's going to be very interesting because Hutchinson finds himself in a very interesting position. I expect them to do 1 step less than all the other competitors ahead on the Ultrasoft. However, will the low engine wear or the low engine life be an issue? This is going to be very interesting, I believe, because he's not allowed to fully push that engine. He might blow it otherwise. So we're going to have a look at that, how that pans out through the race. But definitely, I have him on the note for a good position if he keeps it all together and the engine's not going to blow up.
Yeah, I'd also... Yuri Kastop's on the mediums up to 17th. That's a damn good job for him, isn't it?
I think Jarl's up from the back of the grid to 19th as well on the super soft. So these different strategies at the back of the field starting to play into effect, and a fair play to Flag. They've not been afraid this season to go for the odd strategies, and it's worked out for them. They're one of the most consistent scoring teams on the grid in 2018, and Hutchinson looking to continue his good form as we head onto lap 5 then of 53. Siebel now with a 2.1 second gap over Fournier, who hasn't really lost Petter Burlak, but yeah, it's not really close enough for Petter to consider any sort of move on Fournier just yet. Ricardo Costa keeping a close brief as well, as is Jordan and Milan, and then it's a further 4 seconds back to Liam Duval, who I think has had to switch his mode from attack to defense as Risto Capit's coming back, along with Videk, Martini, Shepard, and the rest of the
just
points
the rest
finishing
of the grid,
train.
mate.
Yeah.
They're all super close. I think maybe Duval's holding Capit up, but Capit's not really ever getting close enough to do anything about it. So I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50 on that one. I think Risto's almost on the limit of his pace, but the fact that this grid is staying this close to all this is just... It's insane. I'm surprised no one's actually made a bold move yet, but Jarl Tyne's closing up to the back, and he is the man of bold moves that we saw back in Australia. So we'll have to see if he can make some progress up through this on those super softs.
He's established himself as a bit of the Ricardo.
Oh, side by side, sorry, for Tedder and DeVos, 14th
Yes.
position. Tedder's got straight through, rather. That's a solid move for him. Down at 10-11.
It's been a bit of a patchy start for Tedder, certainly. The incident that comes to mind is when he completely missed his braking zone in Azerbaijan, taking out the innocent party, which on that day was Petter Burlak. But he's had a race off in Canada, and he's now back in the car. And with a move like that against an experienced competitor as DeVos, I think it's going to be pretty confidence boosting for the Estonians, certainly, and actually making a move through the same corner, this time on Tom Parker, was the aforementioned Jarl Tyen, who has moved his way up into P18.
Yeah, and then Parker and Yuyovsky had a crash at the final corner. Yuyovsky spun back around, had to wait for the entire grid to go by, decided to come to the pit lane to try and get some new tyres to see what he could do. He's now on the medium tyres coming out of the pit lane, and unfortunately I think his race is kind of ruined.
Or is it though, Michi? Choosing, I mean, let me go back to Adonis's choices. That's the hardest compound of tyre that Adonis have brought to this race. So maybe a chance for Adonis to, or for Yuyovsky to recover as
Fournier's fourth.
Fournier as
Costa's up to Costa's going to get up to second here.
Oh yeah, he's moved his way past Costa, through Signé and through Bousset. He's able to just hold on. Let's have a little look at what happened. And oh yeah, he just got a little loose. So Petter Burlak managed to make the DRS work, made his way past through in turn 8, and on the exit at turn 9, Fournier just got caught on the curbing, and that's what allowed Costa through. And then Costa made a sensational second overtake in as many corners to maneuver his way up to P2. That's a great move from the Portuguese driver.
Yeah, going for 2 podiums out of 2 races in the team, which has got probably the largest revolving door of drivers in that second seat of the Hawkeye racing car. But Costa's not letting that get to him. He's doing a sterling job at the moment as Dennis Jordan and Jeffrey Fournier going side by side almost towards turn 1. So they're battling there. Jeffrey Fournier's fight for 4th is very much heated up.
All the fours, Michi, and yeah, please go on.
Yeah, and meanwhile this battle is going on. This means that Alex Siebel had his opportunity to increase the gap onto this group to a good 4.5 seconds right now. So he's already up ahead by quite a bit. So even though Ricardo Costa or Peter Broliak or whoever from that group of 5 battling for P2 might come up for an undercut, Alex Siebel has at the minute very enough time to react on it.
We'll see whether... I can't remember what the Sector 1 gap was between Siebel, but either way, between Siebel and Costa now, it's 4 seconds, so it's not totally irretrievable. But I'm looking at Costa's pace initially after getting past both Burlak and Fournier Lewis, and it's looking mighty impressive, isn't it? Certainly if he's able to keep up this pace, there's no reason to think that he won't be in with a shot of winning this race potentially.
Yeah, he's matching Siebel, which, considering he's had to do all the overtaking as well and sit in the dirty air, that is pretty good on some tyres, which will not be in the greatest condition. We'll have to see if he can balance himself and sort of get on with it. I think this is a common thing in sim racing, and maybe motorsport in general, I'm not 100% sure. But it's when you first get by a driver, to then balance yourself and start setting personal bests is actually quite tricky, because you like your reference has changed because you don't actually have a car in front of you anymore. So to balance that in your head and then adjust yourself each corner is actually quite tricky to do that and then just hit all the apexes and get moving. So maybe Costa's got a little bit more time in the tank to burn here. The gap's at 4.4 seconds. We'll have to see where it is when they come in for their first pit stop. Not too long for now. So
Jordan is on a run of Fournier on the run to turn 8. However, I think Fournier also has DRS to defend. Yeah, it's quite close there. So, I mean, if Fournier loses another 10th up to Brilliac, the gap on the start-finish straight was 950 thousandths between those two. So, yeah, if he loses just another 10th as Jordan goes wide into turn 10, he might lose that advantage of defending with DRS. And yeah, that might bring Jordan up to plan as Fournier does another mistake into turn 12. So Fournier's definitely under pressure there.
Berlak set a green middle sector there, so he's super pushing on this lap. As they're actually both going quicker than Siebel now as second and third. So Costa and Berlak actually quicker than Siebel over the previous lap. So they're both setting very, very good times as Berlak does a 31.1. That's 4 tenths quicker than Siebel. So, ooh, how very interesting. As
the wall moves out the way. Liam comes into the pits and goes onto the medium tyres along with actually Argo Tida, who decides that being in that train is not going to help him. He goes onto the mediums, and actually this was going to be the next point I was going to bring up, Lewis, is we're starting to get to that stage where we're thinking of tyre strategies, of pit stops. For the likes of Duval and Tida, who are, well, of course, Duval was leading the train, but a bit of clean air doesn't hurt, does it? And trying to perform the undercut to either gain a bit of time in, to the guys behind you or to gain a bit of time on the guys in front of you, it doesn't seem like the strangest of decisions from those two, actually.
No. So the thing has been, I think Duval was actually doing a really, really good job in the position that he was in. Maybe his tyres were just going past the point where he was comfortable, but his pace was pretty much the same as Dennis Jordan's as well, like sort of late 32s, high 31s. So their pace was pretty much similar. Pace standout at the moment is actually P number 14, Yuri Kazdorp. Those medium tyres coming into a little world of their own. Set pretty much one of the fastest laps of anyone from fourth down. It actually was the fastest lap of anyone from fourth down. So maybe Kazdorp's going to use this time as his to move up the grid.
As Siebel comes in. And
Costa. And Brick going.
Fournier in, Jordan in. Milan stays out. Obviously, the other Epic Racing car.
Fider comes in as well there from
Capit
the train.
stays out.
Yeah, well, Capit kind of couldn't pit because Siebel was in there. Oh, no, they would have been fine. Oh, Jeffrey Fournier's made contact with Fider in the pit lane.
And is he been spun? I can't actually see. No.
Fider managed to get to his spot, but that might I don't know how the damage works in this, but that might have damaged Fournier's front wing. I was a little careless there from Fournier. He should have lifted and then dropped him behind Fider.
It was very close to being an unsafe release, wasn't it? Very
close.
Well,
I definitely say it was, but obviously with not the rules of Formula One, we're kind of okay on that one.
Yeah. So half the field pretty much pitting, who were on ultra softs on this lap. We're on to lap 10 of 53, and so Peter Berlak now leads the way. Borja Milan was actually helping his teammate a little bit. He was putting a lot of pressure on Dennis Jordan ahead of him. He's not able to do that now, and we're going to see once the end of this first pit stop phase is finished what sort of order we're going to be looking at for Petter and Milan, or for Petter and Boyer, sorry. They're going to want to look to come out as close to Alex Siebel as possible, which is going to be roughly in the 11th to 15th area, though. I do wonder whether they're thinking, well, these guys have pitted earlier, so we're going to be losing time to them anyway. Might it be worth trying to elongate the stops? We're going to find out now as Petter Berlak comes around DuPont. And he's going to go around for another lap. What about Borja Milan? He dives in, albeit late.
I think Hutchinson might end up leading this race. My only fear... Oh, there we go. So we've got Martini and Shepard both in the pit lane as well. Oh, that was close. Hutchinson up to second, obviously, through the pit stops. Yuri Kazdorp's probably going to be in third, maybe fourth. Fourth, because DeVos hasn't pitted yet. My only fear about Fidek, obviously we saw that incident in the pit lane, is if Fidek has any rear diffuser damage as well, because that obviously won't get repaired on the stop.
I'll tell you what here, let's go back to P6, sorry. Garrett, because I've just seen something which might potentially have a big impact on this race. Jarl Tyen, of course, on the super soft tyres, ahead of Alex Siebel. Now, he could do his teammate, Petter Burlak, a massive favour by keeping Siebel behind. I'm not sure what defence he's going to have. He's going to have DRS actually to defend, but here goes Siebel up the inside. I don't think there is much that Jarl can do down the Mistral straight. Oh, is he going to brake late? Yes, he is. Actually, he's going to go fully around the outside of Siebel in defence. That's a brilliant bit of defending from the Norwegian, and I think I am going to complete that point now, Michi. He's helping his teammate out a bunch because Siebel's struggling to get past him.
Very true. I mean, despite Charles on the super soft, he might have the tyre advantage over Alex.
Yeah, maybe even this late.
It's a crossover though, because the super soft is starting to run out of wear now, whereas those are a fresh set of medium tyres.
We'll have to keep an eye on what times Burlak's doing, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Andreas was on the phone there to Burlak and says, "But stay out, stay out." We're going to see what the gap's going to be as Siebel crosses this line.
Mark Hutchinson leads.
Mark Hutchinson does in fact lead the race. So Alex Siebel out. Peter Burlak's going to drop him behind.
But look at Jarl still keeping him behind as well. So Ricardo Costa's what time?
That time from Siebel was slow. Was just obviously because he's obviously defending. 32.7. Yeah. Ricardo Costa 30.4. 2.3 seconds quicker was Costa than Siebel. And so this is big for Costa.
That reflects it in the actual gap between the two on track now as well, because the gap was about 4 seconds before the pit stop. It's now under 2. So Jarl not just helping out his teammate here, but helping out Ricardo Costa, although this looks a little bit more slam dunk to me. Going into turn 8, they lock wheels, contact between the two, and Siebel doesn't leave enough room for Jarl on the inside there, but they're able to keep it in one piece. And more importantly for Alex, he's been able to make it stick. So that was a move that Alex really needed to commit to. There is Jarl on the inside! And goodness me, that was a bit of red mist descending for Jarl Tyen there, who rejoins behind Ricardo Costa. And, well, to be fair, it was 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. Alex not leaving enough room on the exit at turn 9. Jarl really shouldn't have gone for that move into Signé, though.
Yeah, I mean, Ricardo Costa should probably head down to that Edge Esports garage and thank Jarl Tyen after this race if he can do anything with this. He's just made a mistake there into the second to last corner, but still kind of recovers it. But he has closed that gap to Siebel, and most importantly, not only would Siebel tyres be a little bit overheated after that confrontation, shall we say, Ricardo Costa's on the super softs, not the mediums. So Ricardo Costa, the advantage is more or less in his court at the moment.
And is Petter Burlak on the super softs as well? Yes, he is.
Yes.
So Siebel going for a very different strategy. Paulini, the last of the ultra soft pitters, he's in. He's out now as well.
And so Jarl's going to play with Peter.
He's got to let him through at this point. Surely. They're on completely different strategies. So Mark Hutchinson then leads from Yuri Kasdorp. Those two on very different strategies, though. Mark Hutchinson on the super softs, Kasdorp starting the race on the mediums, although Alex Siebel starting to catch him as well now. Here goes Peter Burlak, and yeah, that was pretty evident from Jarl, letting through his teammate, and smartly so as well. Now Jarl can actually focus on defending off Fournier and trying to open the gap between Petter and Jeffrey as well.
Yeah,
I wonder whether there's damage on either car of Jarl Tyen or Alex Siebel. I mean, they were bumping wheels quite badly, and I do believe, I mean, open wheel cars are not that solid in that area. Could it be the case that one or other suspension has a little crack?
Yeah, maybe. I'd suggest, obviously, what is known as light blue damage, I believe it is in RFT. Obviously, it's what is affected with that yellow damage. As Yuri Kasdorp's going to take the lead as Mark Hutchinson peels off into the pit lane. I would suggest there's definitely going to be some damage on the car, whether it has much of an effect over the race. Light blue damage normally doesn't have the largest effect. It's when it's dark blue that you have a problem and you need to get that sorted because the car will start pulling in a certain direction. Riding on board with Alex Siebel, I'm pretty sure I can tell that his car is not pulling to either direction. It seems pretty stable. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that ACR Zach Speed is driving nicely.
How stable is he going to be in defence, though? Because Ricardo Costa's within DRS range.
He's going to get by Kasdorp, though.
Yeah, very true. Very true. I don't think Kasdorp going to put up much of a fight here. The Dutchman on a very, very different race to the one Siebel's in.
Did you call him Brazilian once?
I might have done. I've called a lot of drivers wrong by country. It's all part and parcel of learning through the years that you do this, but maybe at one point, I don't know. I think I got him confused because he was driving for a Brazilian team, and I was like, oh, so, you know, it's a big Brazilian lot. Costa up the inside of both sets. And that's a man on a mission right there, who's willing not to lose any time.
That is a man on a mission. That was a sensational move. He was 2 tenths quicker than Siebel on the previous lap as well. So Ricardo Costa's absolutely pushing for it at the moment. He wants to get that first win for him this season. Obviously, after his first podium, he slid a bit. Ooh, that was a catch.
That was a very good catch indeed. And I kind of half caught it because I was looking at Jarl Tyen falling down to P7. He's now behind Fournier and Jordan. But given that Hutchinson pitted recently, I wouldn't be surprised if those super softs are starting to scream. And look at Milan now, looking to make his way past Tyen as well. Around the outside of turn 1. Oh, wow, great committed racing from the both of them. And ultimately it ends in a fantastic move pulled off from Milan's point of view.
Yeah, Jarl Tyen now, though, should think about boxing. I think there is a reason why Mark Hutchinson gave away his super soft tires, and I'm not seen Hutchinson pushing that hard on them. So Tyen dropped the order quite a bit now in the past couple of laps. I mean, he found himself being in the lead or somewhat towards the lead, and now he's 6.5 seconds back already. So just within the last 2 or 3 laps. I mean, looking at his lap times, he's currently lapping a 1:33.3 compared to Alex Siebel in the lead, 2 seconds quicker.
Burlak's really struggling to get by Kasdorp here for 3rd position. He lifted off there. He kind of had a bit of a run there going into turn 10. He kind of lifted out of it. I'm really surprised by that for Peter Burlak. Obviously someone who's well experienced within open wheelers, raced in the FSR World Championship back in the Twister versus Precision days, sort of.
Still doing that?
Yeah, it was sort of.
Championship
He's still obviously there now, but back in 2013, obviously right towards the front with Twister, came to GPVWC for a season, did a season of Formula Challenge, ended up winning that season for Walk Racing and a race for Aurora Motorsports. To get that one in there.
Cheeky plug, yeah.
But here he goes then, down the inside at T1.
There we go. Maybe, wow, was Kasdorp with a lot of mid-corner speed there, almost careering into the back of him. Thankfully, no contact was made. I think Burlak's one of those drivers, though, who'd rather be safe than sorry. I was kind of surprised that he didn't go late on the brakes into turn 8, when the move was kind of half done. He had half his car up alongside Kasdorp, and I think if he'd just been a little bit more committed, and Kasdorp wouldn't have fought. But, you know, while Kasdorp was still ahead, and since Petter wasn't making the big move, why would you move out the way? And I guess it's going to be a similar story here between Kasdorp and Fournier, as a little bit of a lock-up there from Kasdorp. Well, go on, sorry, Michi.
No worries. This might also have a different story because Peter Burlak already raced on that specific circuit this year in Formula Sim Racing. And fun fact on the side, it was me that he had contact with in exactly that corner because of braking late. So he might have thought twice. Yeah, might have thought twice about that.
Well, I managed him for 1 round, but then raced him for the rest of the year. Obviously not actually me racing him, but you know, I was there. He always came across as quite a smart driver, as someone who wouldn't just stick his nose down the inside and wait for it to get chopped off. That's why the Edge Esports lineup's a little bit weird with those two, because obviously Jarl Tyen is someone who will go for that gap, and Peter's maybe someone who will think twice before doing it. So seems like they're bouncing off well from each other, though.
They're talking of bouncing, we've got to have a little look back at the mental train that's happening from P10 down. Tom Parker, by the way, just coming into the pits. He was on the medium tyre, and he goes onto the soft. So Jarl Tyen on the super softs, while we're still on the topic of that, able to outlast someone on the mediums. I wonder whether he's going for 1 less stop than everyone else, but we've got to take a look at Wupke Hoekstra here now in P12. Trying to fend off Chris Shepherd, who's doing well in Formula Challenge, but that was a late move even by his standards. And Wupke Hoekstra just able to hold on for now, but goes a little bit deeper. Turn 5, and Shepherd trying to force his way up the inside of turn 7. Side by side on, turn 6. Side by side. That was contact! How did they keep it in one piece? I can't believe they did. Shepherd ahead of Hoekstra now, and here goes Florian Geyer up the inside. Bart de Vos involved as well. Gaia going up the inside of turn 8, breaks lane, lock up from Whoopkie Hulkstra side by side into the Mistral chicane, and Hulkstra holding on for dear life. Here goes Devosso up the inside of Gaia, who's been a little bit wrong-footed on the curve.
Oh, not 3 wide through turn 10, please not.
Well, hold your breath, boys. It's going to be a tight one. Through Signé we go. DeVos up the inside of Hoekstra. And here comes Tina getting involved as well. Look at the violence. There's 5 cars in this battle for P13. Mental stuff. And look at Guy up the inside of Whoopkie Hoekstra. I think DeVos is clear. Great move on the Belgians' part. Experience shining through in droves. And there goes Gaia around the outside of Hoekstra as well. Another great move. Hoekstra losing positions quicker than an apple falls out of my shopping cart. Oh, goodness me. Liam DeVol, they're able to save it. I think of Whoopkie Hoekstra falling further and further down the order. And I can't believe he didn't pit there, because I would have had a heart attack.
Hoekstra, he pulled out of that one. I had this in touring cars, which is a lot easier to do this in a touring car than an open wheeler. That was class from those guys. Whoopkie was just like, nah. I am out of this. Thank you very much. It's a little too dangerous. So smart play, at least trying to get to the end of the race there from Whoopkie. Can I just say though, the Chris Shepherd, as much as there was that contact heading onto the back straight, which would probably be looked at, I think it's more 50-50.
Yeah.
The cutback from Shepherd was so well timed to get that move sorted. I think Whoopkie kind of clipped the curb on the inside, and that's why they made contact. But that was such a well timed cutback from Chris Shepherd, using that touring car knowledge to his absolute advantage.
He's really improved as well in single-seaters recently, hence why he's at the top of the Formula Challenge Championship and really staking his name here at the top level as well. We should mention there have been 2 retirements over the course of the race so far, though not so far away that it's embarrassing for us that we missed them. Ben Horrell out and Pedro Gomez out as well, so they're the first 2 out of this race. But bizarrely,
Brilliag is on the rear end of Costa. Brilliag on the rear end of Costa.
Yep, good shout. So going on to the home straight then. Burlock will have DRS as we head towards turn 1. And it closes now.
Turn 8.
Backs out again.
I think it's sensible to back out though, isn't it?
Yeah,
because especially when you've got the back straight.
Yeah, it's a very dangerous spot. But Brilliag is really putting on the pressure. Like the lap before this, he was the quickest of the front 3, and in the past lap, he was quicker by Alex Siebel at the front by 4/10, and now I'm pretty sure he's definitely gonna have a look into turn 8 on Ricardo Costa there.
Yeah,
he's going to go for the outside.
Yeah, he's gone very defensive, Costa, hasn't he, as well? DRS plenty in reserve there for Burlock. He's going to try and go around the outside of turn 8 as well. And he's completely overcooked the corner. And I think he's going to have to let Costa... Actually,
although he's got this, he's going to get this. He's got the outside.
Yeah, they're side by side. And
they're going to go 2 wide through turn 10. No joke.
Maybe Costa's going to have this still. Yeah, Costa's able to make his way back through. I think, to be fair, that's kind of how it should have worked out, because Pedder wasn't properly ahead going into turn 8. It wasn't a done deal, and so Costa holds on for now.
Around the outside.
Yeah, I'm more mean that Petter overshot the corner, and so he kind of has an obligation to give it back to Costa somewhat, because they were still battling.
That's all good. It's all race, isn't it? No, Peter's. Cheeky. I reckon Burlack's got the fastest car of the
look
top
how much
3,
time they've lost to Siebel though now.
Yeah, I know.
And a half on that lap.
Well, what they need to do is they need to pit, and Jarl Tyne needs to get involved again.
Jarl's still not pitted, by the way. Actually, as if on cue, he comes into the pits at the same time, though, as Yuri Kazdorp on the mediums. So he's made those super softs last ridiculously long, and I do wonder whether he's going to go for a shorter pit stop strategy than everyone else. He's going to go onto the supers again, actually. So another one of those would be nice.
Interesting. I would have thought he might have tried the mediums and tried
but
one.
Yeah, he completely dropped the order.
Back to Burlack, by the way. Back to Burlack. And
he's got this.
He's surely got it this time. Yeah, a lot more definitively on the inside. And through turn 8 we go there. A little wiggle from Costa under braking. And Petter Burlack is up into P2.
I'm surprised Costa didn't fight that at all, actually. But they lost 1.3 seconds on that previous lap. It was a 31.3 from Siebel and a 32.6 from the pair of them. But Burlack's times, he's done 31.0, so I still reckon he could be quicker than Siebel, as long as he doesn't run wide at turn 11 like that.
Yeah,
that is
I was
not
going to
good
say, that was a lot of dirty air, wasn't it? Michi, you were groaning. What did you see?
Yeah, just looking at the line of Burlack, he didn't lose that much over time, because as I said into qualifying already, this turn 11 and 12, there is a various of valid lines that will either lose time on the exit or you lose time on the entry or mid corner. But if you top up the totals from entry, mid, and exit, you're somewhat fine whatever line you take through there, and like you do complete nonsense.
Well, yeah, it's more about like which line's greatest for the lack of tyre wear, effectively. What's best for your tyres, because you're right. It's one of those corners where it's almost like no matter what you do, your times are probably going to be fine for there. What I will say, Bart DeVos, Storm Racing, up into 9th place, just getting past Chris Shepard on the previous lap on those medium tyres, as the tyre strategy moves up and down all over the place, and everyone's switching and changing tyres left, right, and centre, and we're all on completely wild and different strategies.
I was going to, like, there is no correlation. There's no way that we can say that someone's in net P3, for example.
No.
Because I mean, even between the top two of Siebel and Burlak, they're on medium and super soft tyres, respectively. So at the moment, we're very much just going to have to look at basic positions, and maybe once we are 3/4 of the way through this race, then we'll have a better idea of where people might potentially be finishing. I mean, all I can tell from this is Siebel, Burlak, and Costa in with a very good shot of the podium.
Yeah, but don't rule out Fournier, Milan, or literally any one of the other runners that we have. Fastest, or personal best rather, first section from David Fidek is in 8th position, so he's trying to close up to the back of Risto Capet. Again, not having the shiniest and most spectacular race is the Estonian, currently in 7th position. Ooh.
Sorry, we've got to go back to P13 here, because Tina's just thrown it up the inside as I notice Costa is in, but there's a great scrap going on here. The wall is back, and he's back with a vengeance in P12, currently holding off Tina, who's made his way past Hutchinson as well. Great move through Bousset, completed through turn 13 there. And they've got Paolini, Kasdorp, Martini all in this battle as well. Tyen catching up onto the back of them on one less stop on the wall. Again, moves out of the way and lets the lot of them through. But Costa there, interesting choice to pit. He comes out onto the mediums, and he comes out quite crucially, actually, ahead of Bart DeVos in P8.
It's quite a surprise for the wall, though, to enter the pit lane that time again. He's like a classic Super League bell train.
Yes.
Obviously not one that we've had in GPVWC for a little while, though.
Oh, there was one yesterday.
Was there?
Yeah.
What a classic. Absolute classic. Bringing it back. We're going back to 2014, lads.
Well, I mean, this is the first French Grand Prix in 2013. We've got to have some nostalgia somewhere.
So exiting the intensely close battle between Paolini and the other three guys was Liam De Wall, who recently made a pit stop. So after 12 laps on the medium tyre, he's decided to go for another set of mediums.
Was he only on the mediums for 12?
Yes, he only was on the mediums for 12. So he did 8 laps on the super soft, 12 on the mediums, and is now out again on another set of mediums. Maybe going for an undercut in order to escape the battling group of 4. You never know.
Well, I don't blame you. I think Lewis and I are looking at the same battle for P15 there.
Yeah. Y'all getting a little too tasty going through this traffic. He had a little bit of contact into the turn 8 chicane with the Hawkeye of Martini, and then a little bit of contact with Dino Paolini at turn 11, at the end of turn 11. Kind of just left it sort of 50-50 down the inside at a point when he really just shouldn't have. This is someone who's trying to make his way through the order as quick as possible without, how to politely say it, without applying too much brain power. But he's got to be a little bit careful because he could end up spinning. He's in a point where he's got his pace to get some decent points from those 4 Edge Esports, and obviously with the championship, you've got to focus on those points we were talking about this at the start. And so he just needs to get that head out of it and just focus on those points.
Well, Shepard and Gaia have both come in as well. They're both out on, I think it was super soft. So it's definitely soft for Gaia. And where is Shepard?
Soft.
On the track? So he's on soft as well. So a lot of people go into these harder compounds now as we reach the midway point of the race, lap 23 of... actually, we're just ticking over to lap 24 of 53 as Siebel completes lap 23. Burlak is still catching, though.
Still catching, yeah,
the gap
absolutely.
down to 2.6.
6/10 on that last lap. 3/10 on the lap before.
But despite Burlak is gaining, I've compared both lap times for of Petr Brelyak and Alex Siebel a tiny little bit. The advantage of the super soft tire by Peter Brojak is not really that huge, to be totally honest with you guys. So in the past couple of laps, he's done consecutively low 31s. However, Alex on his side, he's also just a tenth or two slower. So comparing a 31.0 or 31.1 to a 31.3 or 4 or even a 0.2 of Alex Siebel, that is not really the advantage of the super soft tire over the medium you would expect.
No, but considering we're quite late in the run, I would say, you know, considering tyre degradation, turbo degradation, etc., I would say that Peter Berlak's did a pretty decent job. What I will say, Yuri Kazdorp just had a 30.4. He's down in 10th position, and that was the fastest lap by 4 tenths quicker than 4 tenths quicker than Ricardo Costa. But with the exception of Ricardo Costa, that was 1.2 seconds quicker than anyone else in the top 10. That is an impressive lap.
Oh,
Ricardo Costa also pumping. Yeah, of course he's doing it on fresh meat. Siebel in pit lane.
Yeah, Siebel is in the pit lane.
Siebel in the pit lane before Berlak.
Well,
I know, like,
bring you back.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to bring you back to Jarl Tyne again. I realise that for a man who's not in the top 10, we're focusing on him a lot. But as Fournier comes in as well, look at how long that Edge car was able to stick on those super softs. As long as a medium runner. I wonder whether Petter's got the same setup, and I wonder whether Petter's able to do the same sort of long stint that Tyne has. Because ultimately, if Berlak can pull one less stop over his rivals, all of a sudden that puts him in the driving seat for the win of the race.
Yeah. Not that we should flick this on the broadcast because it doesn't look very good. But Boy Milan's ping is 1,000.
Is it really?
It is. Yes.
Oh, that's worrying.
So I wonder if he's got a slight connection issue.
Oh yeah.
That's
and if I were Dennis Jordan, I would not feel very comfortable because that car's stopping at places it shouldn't be and swiping over places it shouldn't be. So that is not good. And I wonder if a retirement might be on the cards for that epic racing car.
Which be, oh yeah, that'd be such a shame for Milan, of course, who's got the best car on the grid. Undoubtedly. I noticed Fidek's also been in, by the way. And Jarl Tyne just making his way past Argo Tida for 11th and 12th. But that's worrying for Boar Milan. His ping's well over 1,000 at some points as well. Hopefully it settles down. But like that is worrying for Dennis Jordan. But actually, to be fair, I'd rather be Dennis Jordan in this situation looking at Milan ahead than yesterday there was an incident where one of the drivers, as is Milan pitting. Okay, well, that's good for Dennis Jordan, but there was a situation yesterday where someone had a screen freeze on the front straight, and the guy behind was like a second back, and so he had no chance to react and went into the wall. At least in this particular situation, you can look ahead and see, okay, this guy's a little dangerous.
Yeah. Alex Siebel's gap over Ricardo Costa is massive. So Ricardo Costa lost a lot of time on the previous stint. Alex Siebel obviously came out on the medium, set a fastest, as in purple, final sector, that kind of fastest, not just a personal best. So I think Siebel's going to be pulling out quite a bit here on Peter Berlak if he doesn't come down the pit lane soon, unless the Edge Esports are doing a slightly different strategy. I remember you saying when we were in Germany about the fight here between Edge Esports and ACR Zach Speed.
Yeah.
Obviously, one that we had in that endurance race. But the rivalry between that team is, it's as much as it's friendly, it's still quite a severe rivalry. They want to beat each other, and so having that, I wonder if Peter Berlak is actually more confident he's on a different strategy to Siebel rather than trying to copy him.
It's interesting you say that because I do think he is. So he went 2 laps longer on the Ultra Soft, but he's pitting now, just as you say. Right. Anyway, I quickly finish off my point. So Berlak done 11 laps, which is 2 laps longer on the Ultra Soft than the opening stint. He's done as much laps as Siebel did on the medium with the Super Soft, and now he's exiting on the Ultra Soft again. So he's now 3 clicks or 3 compounds softer than Siebel and Jordan ahead. And now it's crunch time, really. If Petter is able to do the move and then like box again for a fresh set of medium while being ahead, this is going to be a major threat for Alex to be able to gain back that position if Brilliant passes him right now. And
that's an interesting one. Although Peter will have to look after his tyres. I've got a question for you though, James Kirk. Who do you think's done the fastest lap of the race? And I guarantee you're wrong, unless you actually look.
Don't look it up.
It's not going to be Erhan Yayovsky, who's become our third retirement of the day, certainly. I'm also thinking it's not going to be Kazdorp, because he recently set a fastest lap. I'm going to go for Mark Hutchinson.
No, it's Right Kilk, down in 15th place. Is Ricardo Costas going to make a move on Risto Caplet for 4th position, or not quite yet? But yes, Right Kilk, Eval Simracing team. Obviously on the Ultra Soft tyres, down in 15th position, putting in some decent pace, as I'm pretty sure Alex Siebel will be trying to match or beat that. It's a 30.1 as the fastest lap of the race from Kilk. And Siebel's fastest lap is a 30.2. So
yeah, but before Brilliak is going to smash it by a mile with a fresh set of Ultra Soft.
There is that.
Just coming across the line now, actually. This is going to be his...
So it's going to be the first time lap without pit stop in Federation for Brilliant.
Purple final sector. This is going to be a quick one.
And let's go on board with him, shall we? As actually is Costa past Capit. Yes, he is. Into turn 1 there. That was nice and simple. Portuguese driver. Let's have a little look at Burlak's lap then. The gap to Alex Siebel, by the way, is 4.6 seconds. So he did lose a lot of time in going longer on that super soft stint. I can't help but wondering whether he's going ultra, super soft, ultra, and then soft for the final stint with the, I guess, thoughts that he'll go to the end.
I would suggest in his head he's got one more stop in mind.
Yeah.
If you go for 2 more stops, then I think the race is kind of gone, because I think Siebel's only going to do 1 more with their mediums.
It's like lap 28 of 53 mine, so considering that the super softs, they were able to stretch them out to 15 to 20 laps in Jarl's case, then roughly 25 to 30 laps for softs. It's not that unimaginable, Michi. I don't know whether you've got any disagreement there.
Oh, well, what I would say is the gap between them, you will not believe this, but Alex Siebel to Peter Burlak, Siebel was the quicker to this point in the lap. As they come to cross the line, it's a 30.2 for Siebel, 269. It's a 30.155. It's not even the fastest lap there for Peter Burlak. Now, that is definitely a surprise. He's either looking after his tyres a bit too much, he's going to get DRS by Dennis Jordan in this lap, and I'm pretty sure he'll pass him straight into turn 8. But
it might be the surprise. As Fournier's passed Capit as well.
Possible bit of dirty, yeah, but yeah.
I'm sorry, James, I was a little bit too deep into what Lewis just said, because I was watching sector times quite intensely, because I'm actually surprised that Brilliak is not able to be like a half a second quicker than Siebel at the front.
Well, he's past Jordan now, so if Dirty Air was a factor in that poor lap...
That's gone.
That's gone.
I wonder if he's just looking after his tyres a bit more. I wonder if that is his focus at this present moment in time, is just making sure that those tyres can do the distance he wants them to do, thus meaning that he's aiming for 1 more stop, rather than pushing the tyres to their absolute peak.
But why would you not take another set of super soft to actually have the possibility to push a little bit?
That's my question.
I know, it's very bizarre.
Because I'm looking at Siebel and ACR Zach Speed. They've brought the ultra soft, the soft, and the medium. So if Burlak on his next stop can make the softs last until the end, then surely Siebel is as well. As there's a great battle going on between DeVos and Milan, although Milan, he's still having bad lag issues, and I can totally relate to DeVos on this one in not wanting to make a move, because why would you when the car's all over the place?
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a rule in the rule book, but I'm pretty sure there used to be about having such a high ping. I think it's actually, no, this might have been in TPS back in the day, but if you had a ping over 250, you would effectively have to park the car or be disqualified.
Like a black and orange flag or something.
Yeah. Effectively, it's the sim racing's equivalent of a black and orange flag, because it's not fair for, like in this case, no disrespect to you, boy Milan, but it's not fair for DeVos. And to be fair, from a weird point of view, Milan might not actually know. I would suggest if his ping's that high, he probably does. But we've had it before, not so much in rFactor 2, but in other sims, where you will be lagging, but everyone else looks fine from your point of view, and you're just lagging to everyone else. I've had this in iRacing a few times with the constant disappearing that we have from some drivers, and that blinking is what they call it. And it is an issue, but sometimes the driver that is blinking just doesn't know. And so I'm wondering if that might be the case in Boyer, although he has pulled out a long way from DeVos here.
Yeah, he's actually been able to pull out pace from somewhere. And so he's not really got to worry about DeVos behind him because he's looking far ahead. Let's have a little look at Burlack across the line this time then. That's a little bit better. That went from 4.6 to 4 seconds as Dennis Jordan comes in.
Yeah, he sets fast up the race, 29,
exactly.
8, half a second.
It was the final sector that was purple. However, if you compare the other sector times, in the middle sector he just gained a 2,000th. And also in the opening sector he just vastly gained a 10th. So it's just the final sector where these Ultrasoft really come into play. So let's see whether he can keep up the pace and see how Alex Siebel is responding to it.
So I was going to say, by the way, 23 laps remaining. Capit and Jordan have both been into the pits and have both come out on the medium compound tyre. I would not be surprised if they're going to the end.
They're going to the end on that. Yeah, absolutely. The mediums will go to the end. Hopefully, you would hope on that. I've just received a message from Mike Pittman which says that drivers are required to have a stable internet connection. Any drivers with excessively high ping. It's obviously to the discretion of the race director, who for this round is Mr. Chris Williamson, as it normally is for Superleague. At least I believe it is.
Very experienced as well.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that Chris is on the blower to Epic Racing and sort of trying to find something out about what's going to go on with Boyer Milan. And I'm sure they'll be fighting their corners to try and keep him in the race as long as possible. But unfortunately, if the ping doesn't get sorted, it's just not safe. Again, that black and orange flag, like you spoke about, it is effectively the sim racing's equivalent of a meatball flag.
A meatball flag?
Yeah, it's a meatball flag in karting. Obviously, that karting I've done loads of. By loads, I mean none.
See, that's a brand new term to me, and it took me a little bit off guard. Yeah. As Bart DeVos then comes in for Storm Racing, who I believe have the medium compound available to them. Indeed, they do. And so that's probably going to be Bart going to the end as well. So then, lap 32 of 53. Alex Siebel leads by 3.4 seconds. The gap coming down ever more quickly as Peter Burlack on the Ultrasofts attempts to close down the gap. If we believe the tyre data that we've learned so far is to be trusted, they've got one more stop until the end, as does the majority of drivers in the field. Costa currently P3, but some 10 seconds back from Burlack. Fournier, Kasdorf, Milan, Tyen, Jordan, Hutchinson and Fidek rounding out your current top 10, but we must stress the tyre strategies have been so varied in this race that you could probably, for that bottom half of the top 10, throw them all out in a different order and maybe take a couple from outside of the top 10 and put them in, and that would be more realistic looking at when they pass the checkered flag in roughly 20 laps time.
Ricardo Costa's coming under increasing fire from Jeffrey Fournier. Ricardo Costa on the medium tyres, Jeffrey Fournier on the softs. Purple middle sector from Dennis Jordan in 8th place. So that's interesting, especially considering they might be the tyres that he's taken to the end of the race. Well,
I'm looking at Costa and Fournier, and I'm thinking that these guys have both got to do one more stop. Unless Costa can make it really last until the end, I don't see how Fournier is going to make those softs last until the end, certainly.
I don't see neither of them going to the end, to be fair.
Yeah.
No. Could you see Dennis Jordan going for his 3rd podium of the year?
Looking more and more likely, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Like,
hold on, sorry.
No worries. So he did a 21 laps on the medium in a middle stint, and right now we just have a 21 laps left in the race. So those tires definitely should take him to the end. Whereas I expect Yuri Kastrop to come in again. Just a little clarification. You have to use more than just one compound, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Kastrop definitely has to come again because he's done double mediums till now. It's gonna be very interesting to see what kind of tire the Adonis driver is taking on then.
Well, good news for him is he's got ultras and super softs in reserve.
Exactly.
So...
I was just going to say.
He'll probably go on to supers with about 15 to go because, I mean, he's done a sensational job at the moment. But
I'm going to shout out to, there's been a couple of, well, attempted moves. One of them successful, one not so much. Fidek was able to get through on Hutchinson for P9 into the Mistral chicane. But let's have a word for Tyan here, who is still on his second set of super soft tyres. He's coming into line now with the likes of Burlack, and I think Dennis Jordan's going to get him here into turn 1. Indeed he does. But fair play to Tyan. He's probably going to be the only man in the entire field, barring Kazdorp as the only other exception, to make a 2-stop work.
Yeah. And you know what? I am expecting him to go for the ultra soft in the end. Because if you can do sort of 20 laps twice on the super soft, you have a 13 laps or 15 laps to cover in the end, which should be able to do on the ultra soft. So Jaltine might be one of the guys to watch in the end, slicing through the field, because I expect other people to be more on the harder side of the compounds.
I'm not entirely sold on that argument, because he's been on this particular set of super softs for a long time. I would not be surprised to see him pitting in the next couple of laps, in which case he surely has to go for soft tyres.
Something I will say about this 5th place, just a quick thing on the 5th place battle for Yuri Kazdorp and Boy Milan. I think Chris, or whoever the race director is, needs to do something about Boyer, because it's just going a bit far, and I'm fearing for Yuri's race here.
Yeah.
Because it's looking a bit much.
Yeah. I'm worried. The ping's definitely better than it was 3 laps ago.
Yeah, it's still over 600.
It's still over 100, 600, yeah.
So I think, yeah, the race director needs to get on that and pull him in. As sad as it is, considering it's a decent drive from Boyer to get into 6th position, but it's not fair to ruin Yuri's race, who, let's be honest, has been pretty outstanding so far. 20 seconds off the lead, P5 in that Adonis.
And considering that he's got one more stop to make, that's going to slot him back in about P11.
Yeah, and probably maybe even a little bit higher than that, considering other people that might have to stop as well. So could be good.
It's been an outstanding race, the Dutchman. Certainly well worth shouting out on that one. The gap continues to drop between Siebel and Burlack. 2.3 seconds between the two now as they head into the final sector. And well, the big question is going to be now, as we get closer and closer to the end, there's going to be one little extra strategy call to make. Siebel, we're kind of expecting, will go onto the soft tyres, and this is able to string out this stint extremely well, in which he'd be allowed to go onto the ultra softs. If we end up in a middle stage between those two, though, Petter, in theory, could go onto the supers again and might have an extra compound advantage over Siebel. So this is going to be a really fascinating story over the next 5 laps as Borja Milan is in. And let's see, this is probably going to be for a change of tyres, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Onto the softs. But the question is he...
boom! No. Ping's down.
Ping is down.
Yeah, down to 49.
Maybe he closed something in the background. It's going up again.
It's back up.
Yeah, he's staying put. He's staying put, and I am thinking this is just a safety call from the race director.
Yeah.
Oh, what a shame for Borja. Like Lewis said, such a great drive, but when you're putting other drivers at risk, it's got to be done.
All those dirty downloads.
He pulls out now.
Yeah, but Ping is raising up again.
Oh, yeah, it's whenever he drives. It's just whenever he drives, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. It's a shame, but alas, what can you do about it? From this point of view, that's pushed Dennis Jordan up into 6th position, who's been setting some increasingly good times around the circuit. Dennis Jordan's times are 30.3, so matching, if not a little bit quicker, than the two leading the race. So it's been a very good drive.
Yeah, and Mian backs off.
Off the leader.
As Borja backed off. In fact, Borja Milan is out of the race then. Not through a straight disconnect either, but effectively black flagged, which is a real shame, doing such a good job. And it's going to be underwhelming and frustrating for Epic, isn't it? Coming in with a car 2/10, it's estimated, better than anyone else. They take pole position, and at current rate, they're only going to have one driver in top 10, let alone even trying to get on the podium.
Yeah, it's not so great. Although one Epic Racing car that will be trying to get on the podium is that of Jeffrey Fournier, literally right on the back, continuing to be right on the back of Ricardo Costa. I'm surprised he's not actually been able to get by Ricardo Costa at the moment, but he's going for it again down to turn 8, and nothing's going.
Two different compounds, but wearing out at the same rate maybe now.
I'm just wondering if Jeffrey Fournier is not as quick in a straight line as that Hawkeye. And that's why he's really struggling to get by. The gap is under 2 seconds for the lead between Peter Burlack and Alex Siebel, so it's closing up there as well.
Let's see.
But obviously a decent gap there for the moment.
I'm trying, so there's going to be 15 laps remaining after this lap is completed. So
we're quite close for 12th position between Paolini, Parker, and Shepherd, who's all getting involved there down to turn 8.
Ooh, that was almost 3 wide there. And Parker going up the inside of Paolini, side by side through the missile chicane, side by side on exit as well. Is Parker going to do it around the outside? You bet he is. But is he going to be able to keep it as we head through Signé? Paolini, experienced Super Cup driver, moving up to the top leagues for the first time this year. Oh, tried to go on the inside. Not going to work. Shepherd goes well off track. He's not going to be taking the position. But Tom Parker most certainly has. He's up to P12.
And he's right on the back of Liam Dewell straight away. So that 11th position is up for grabs for Tom Parker almost immediately afterwards. I think Dewell is struggling for those tires. But we know how his defensive driving has been this race, and that is absolutely rock solid. No mistakes. Oh, Parker makes contact straight away.
Oh, there's a spin. And he better stay still. Okay, now it's all good. Little bit of contact on exit there. Duvall lost it a bit.
Paolini.
And Parker went.
Oh, Parker's moving late. That was no judging on that. Well, Parker moved a little late for me, but Paolini didn't get by anyway. I'm not sure about that move between Parker and Dewell anyway.
Guy and Duvall into the pits now for their final stop. Tom Parker in P11 on track at least. Scary moments, certainly, for the Englishman in those past couple of corners. Paolini and Shepherd following close behind him. I see Schultzer and Kirk actually in a close battle for 14th and 15th as well, as the gap at the lead now down to 1.3 seconds.
Yes.
And what's interesting to me, Lewis, is that with every lap that tips over, we're moving closer and closer to ultras for the final stint, in which case it's just going to be a flat-out battle for the lead between these two.
The big surprise is the mediums for Siebel. Even like getting this late in the run, we're 11 laps into this run, so I think that Peter might pit at the end of this lap. So watch out for that. I think Peter might pit at the end of this lap and go on to supers. Actually, no, I would say Peter is pitting at the end of this lap, based on what I'm looking at here.
Fournier's on
and
the
he's
soft,
been closing that
by the
gap
way.
even to medium.
Sorry, we really need to look at this, because I was thinking that we were looking at super softs for Epic Racing. They're on the soft tyre, and I wonder if that's a potential indicator as to what we're going to be looking at if Peter comes in this lap. Actually, is Fournier going to make his way past Capit? Oh, wow, side by side through turn 3, that's brave. And he's able to get him as well. Great move from the Frenchman. But if Fournier feels the need to go onto the soft tyre at this stage, then surely we're going to be seeing Peter come in and do the same thing.
Well, I think he can get away with the super softs, because his stints so far have been 12, 15, and then will be 12 at the end of this stint, which means that he's only going to have 14 laps to do, and we know he can do 15. I mean, he might actually go for another ultra stint. He might try and extend this one more and then go for another ultra soft, which might be a solid strategy as well. We'll see as they come down the pit lane. Yeah, Peter straight in the pit lane.
Oh,
Siebel in as well.
Siebel knew that he was going for the undercut, and he cut across the line. I'm not entirely sure how legal that was, but
excellent
nevertheless,
reaction.
Battle in the pits. Here we go. So Siebel onto the softs. Burlack onto the ultras.
Yeah.
Well. So Burlack with a real throw of the dice here, thinking that he can go to the end of the race on ultra soft tyres. They come out in the lead because Ricardo Costa's just come in. He's going on to the super softs. Kasdorp comes in as well. And let's see, Kasdorp has the supers and ultras tie-in as well. So let's see, Kasdorp is onto the supers. What about tie-in? Well, tie-in has to change tyres. And so I imagine he's going on to the ultras. Oh, clipped by Kasdorp as well. Well. What an interesting story we've got to the end of this race now.
I think this race is absolutely on, and Peter Burlack has the advantage. I will say Dennis Jordan's doing as we've said, sensational job. He won't have to pit again, but may come under threat from the Frenchman of Geoffrey Fournier, our pole sitter for this event, towards the end of this stint. The gap between them is 10 seconds, so watch out for that as the stint goes on. But yeah, Alex Siebel, Peter Burlack, absolutely game on for this French Grand Prix.
Well, Siebel's just pulled out a gap of 6/10 over that first half of the lap. I reckon he's looked behind him, seen what happened, and thought, right, I've got soft tyres. I need to thrash these around this track as best I can, because if Peter can go to the end... Huh? Yeah.
Another half a second.
But actually, to be fair, we saw Peter really struggle to turn on the Ultra Softs last time, Michi, so maybe it's a similar case this time around.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting thing to watch, definitely. I'm quite surprised by the pace of Alex, like, just in the out lap. He took away a full second, even more than that. 1.2 seconds of Peter Burlack, who owed to be on the fast tyre compound. But, I mean, we have seen people doing 11 laps, 12 laps on the Ultra Soft, but Burlack has to do 14 laps on them. So it's definitely going to be a stretch, and I do agree with Alex. He is maybe in a good position trying to run away right now, because when tires are fresh, the speed difference should be fastest. So if he is vulnerable, it's right now.
I'd go as far as to say that Burlack's strategy is bordering on absolutely mental, because he had super softs and softs available to him. Either he thought that Siebel was going to call his bluff and go on ultras as well, or he thought that he'd be able to make his way past on ultras in the first lap or so, which has been far from the case. Siebel much faster on compounds which are 2 clicks harder.
But just remember with Peter how his pace was towards the end of that, despite the mediums being in Siebel's hands.
Yeah.
I would suggest that Peter is playing the long game here, and he's just keeping cool, keeping calm, and not letting that pace get to him. As they cross the line, we'll see what the times are. I think he's lost another 4 or 5 tenths. 28.8, 29.4. So fastest lap of the race. 6.5 tenths. I mean, it's a lot, and he's losing a lot of time. And it's going to be a push, but we'll just have to wait and see how it unfolds. And I'm not thinking this race is done yet.
No, well, if Super League throughout this year has given us any indication, it's never done until the checkered flag flies. Let's go and take a little look down the rest of the top 10 then as we enter the final quarter of this race. Dennis Jordan holding on in third, but Geoffrey Fournier is there in fourth. He's there on the softs. However, what will give Dennis Jordan a bit of comfort is that he's got Ricardo Costa for company on super softs. And so perhaps that battle is going to enable Jordan to, in fact, take his third podium of his Super League career. Kasdorp in 7th with De Vos 8th. Great drive for him. Jarl Tyen, considering he started dead last, he's up to 9th. That's a great recovery drive. Fidek still hanging around in 10th with Kirk up in 11th. Hutchinson 12th. Martini, Tater and Parker rounding out your final point scorers, although Parker just going wide there. Maybe Chris Shepherd might have something to say about that final point. We shall wait and see.
Pace starting to balance out here between Burlack, middle sector. Burlack was a little bit quicker than Alex Siebel as they come to towards the start-finish again. Is that Alex Siebel with a bit of traffic up ahead? It is. It's Vate.
This is such a curious battle, isn't it?
It sure is. That gap did come down, I think. Yes, did. So Peter Burlack now getting that a little bit quicker. The gap came down. Well, the gap went up over the lap, but in the final 2 sectors, the gap just came down a little. So maybe a little bit of hope there for Peter Burlack and that Edge Esports team to maybe, finally, get one up on ACR's axe speed.
They've done it already this year in Monaco. Will they be able to do it on an open circuit where it's a lot easier to overtake? 2 more retirements to cover. Liam Duval, unfortunately, stepping out of that virtual reality headset. He's done for the day, as is Mark Veit. But the gap going up again between Siebel and Burlack. My one worry, Michi, is that it's all fair and well saying, okay, well, the Ultras, they really came into their own when Siebel was coming to the end of his medium stint. But these are soft tyres we're talking about, not mediums. They're going to work slightly differently. And as we reach 10 laps to go, okay, 2.5 seconds is maybe not the biggest gap that a Super League driver will have had to try and overcome in the over 15 years that this competition has been running. On this particular day, just outside Marseille for Peter Burlak, considering that those tyres are going to be going off as well, I don't know. I think the pendulum's really swung the way of Siebel. I think Edge has pulled a bit of a faux pas on strategy myself.
Well, it's going to be very interesting, that is for sure, because as you just pointed out, it's not only the ties of Siebel going down, it's also the ties of Brejak going down. However, I have the impression that Brejak is a lot better on tyre wear and taking care of them. But on a side note, there is a lot more boost power, or a lot more power on the engine Peter Brejak has in his Edge car, but they are not as efficient as the ACR Suckspeed engine from Reliant. So maybe Peter Brejak also had a little bit to save fuel at the beginning of the stint, saying, all right, now I can surely take out a little bit of speed. It's going to be a thriller towards the end, I'm pretty sure. I don't think the gap will stay around 3 seconds. It will definitely become smaller again. That's but will it be enough in order to overtake Siebel at the end? I just like you, got the same impression that Siebel has the better odds right now.
Well, we had a discussion about downforce levels before the event, and now we can have a discussion technically on the same level when it comes to tyres, because back in World GT, and obviously the same mod they ran over in VEC and stuff like that, back in the day, still in VEC, which is the URD GT mod. Now that, I distinctly remember, we had a thing with the hard tyres, where the hard tyres would actually wear quicker than the softs because they would scrub. Because it was so hard. Now, obviously not so much around here, because they can get them up to temperature. That was more of a temperature deficit. But the fact that the ultra softs may slide less than, let's say, the mediums may explain why the mediums were dropping off. And if we look at the fastest laps between Peter and Alex, and then look at their current laps, now they're just starting to match each other. Whereas Peter's laps is only 1/10 off of his fastest. Alex's have already dropped off 7/10 from his fastest lap.
Well, yeah, it's interesting, but I think it would be explainable with what I just said on the engine.
Possibly.
Peter Brejak has to run in lower engine modes for a longer duration in that time. However, the ACR Suckspeed car is able to run in higher engine modes for a little bit longer. So that is what I do believe happened on Alex Siebel's side. He was like, right, I'm vulnerable right now, so I have the better, the worst tire compound speed-wise compared to Peter. So what I'm gonna do is use the advantage of my engine and use the advantage on my extra little bit of fuel, what I still do have left in the car, and pull out a gap of 2 to 3 seconds to just get you in that safety zone to like easily control the gap, you know?
Yeah, indeed. We saw it on the broadcast, by the way, that Yaltine got past Bart DeVos. Also, one position ahead, Yuri Kavsdok got past Risto Capit and pushed Capit down into 7th position. Ricardo Costa and Jeffrey Fournier remain ever close as they have done over the past stint.
Costa's gotten past Fournier, is what I was going to say there. We've missed that as well.
Oh, yeah, they should say, yeah.
So, I mean, to be fair, that's part of... It's one of the great things about Super League, but also one of the slightly disappointing things is we get stuck into one of these brilliant strategy and mind games, and then we miss stuff on track. But thankfully, Garrett De Vries is on it. He's showing you great battles going on. We're talking nerdy car things. And so good jobs for Costa, Kazdorp, and Tyen as they all move their way up the order. I also noticed that Martini came in for a pit stop as well. Personal best for Burlak. And for the first time, Lewis, he's starting to bring down the gap over the entire lap, though we're just coming to the end of lap 46 of 53. Time is beginning to run out. If he wants to make a move for the lead of the race, he needs to get a bit of a wiggle on.
And he's got traffic as well in the form of the Mad Cape Racing of Tobias Olsen. who hopefully will get out of the way pretty sharpish.
He'll get DRS from this, actually, Burlak.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll get a little bit of slipstream as well, run down towards turn 1. Gap's 2.692. And a little bit of gap came down in that final sector as well. I would agree with you. I think it's a little bit late now. Because the times he'd have to do would have to be very, very quick. Although, once again, Alex Siebel drops off a 10th on that lap. So that means that he is now 8 tenths away from his personal best. Meanwhile, Peter Burlak was only a 10th away from his personal best. So, I don't know where this pendulum is swinging right now. It should be a very exciting end to the race with 6 or 7 laps to go.
He's cut down another 10th here in Sector 1, but Michi's been bringing it up all race. A light car on the best tyres will gain the most time in Sector 3.
Yeah.
So really, that's where we're going to see the biggest gain for Burlak, if there is any gain. There are other close battles, I realise, with probably Costa and Fournier being the closest, but Fournier, has not really had much to say in response to Costa when that original move, which saw Costa into P4, was committed. No real gains through Sector 2 there for Peter Burlak, as we head through Du Village, and then go around the De La Tour for the 47th time of asking. A little bit of a slip there as we head into DuPont now as well. And let's see what this gap is now. It was 2.7 at the beginning of the lap.
And it is 2.55, but he didn't gain anything. No, see, I think it's too late. I don't think the gap is gaining enough. He doesn't really gain very much in the second sector, which is something which has been apparent throughout the race. It is that third and that first sector where you can use the softer compounded tyre, but there's just something not lining up on that Edge Esports car in this final stint. I think he should have taken the supers.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think Michi does as well.
Yeah.
It was bold, but when you could have pushed that little bit more, Michi, on a harder compounded tyre, why risk it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I cannot really compare this series to what I'm used to at FSR. But with all those tires being available, I would have probably gone for the safe bet and see what is the possibility of me being equally quick or consistently quicker over the entire stint, rather than being super quick at the beginning with the Ultrasoft, towards then maybe dropping off towards the end. If I not have made the move, then I do not have any chances. Yeah, but I mean, Peter was surprising me with using the softer compound throughout all race, whereas I was also as surprised as Siebel on the medium tire did not get quite long enough out, or quite not enough laps out of those tires, I would say. It's a bit of a weird situation.
So what are we saying, that Edge Esports may or may not be the Ferrari of Super League? Is that what we're saying?
Well, they've got their own engine. They're the only supplier. Well, they're a supplier of Quasar, but they're the only ones using Quasar engine. And actually, I distinctly remember back to Azerbaijan, where there was a direct comparison between the two. But Tyen, was in a battle with both ACRs for the podium and the win, and it was clear that the Valiant engine was just so much better. And okay, for Edge Esports, it means that they can tailor the Quasar to their own liking. It also means they've got less data from other cars and other teams to put into it. And well,
and the Valiant's been an engine for a long time as well.
It has, yeah. And I just wonder whether, I don't know, maybe there's something to be said for the setup that both these guys are running. Maybe there's something to be said for the cars and the upgrades. I mean, ACR's been marginally better than Edge pretty much all year, with the exception of a few races. So maybe this is just as things are meant to be.
I mean, I say a long time. I think pretty sure the first season for Valiant was 2014.
Yeah, it was the first year after they re-entered Super League. So they re-entered in they re-entered in 2014. So they would have been an engine supplier in 2015.
What year did they use? What engine did they use in 2014? Because that was the year when they had Philip Pushka, wasn't that?
I think they had Potentia, I want to say.
Oh, we'll need Pittman.
I can go and check for you while you're
go
talking over the race. I'll go and have a little look.
Oh, I'm really confused, because I remember having a conversation with someone about it. But anyway, 2.2 seconds is that gap between Siebel and Burlak, and then Dennis Jordan's kind of in a world of his own. He's lapping good enough to keep third, so I don't think that position is going to be under threat. Costa's not pulled too much away from Fournier, 4th and 5th, so they're pretty close. Another close battle, though, is that between an Edgy sports car and an ACR Zaxby. And this is probably one that we should be focusing on at the moment. P7, P8. So Risto Capit currently leading that battle. Jarl Tyen in 8th position, obviously started towards the, well, pretty much at the back.
He started dead last.
Literally slap bang, dead last. Now in that 8th position, just behind Risto Capit, who we've spoken about a few times, not having the greatest race of all time. Jarl Tyen, pretty much the exact same. Jarl Tyen on the Ultras.
But Risto now needs to go defensive.
Yeah, well, outside of turn 8 can be a little bit quicker if you brake late. Are those just the double
look at the advantage of the Ultra soft here for Jarl Tyen when making the move on Risto.
But again, that's ultras versus mediums.
Yes.
That's the info that we got last stint between Siebel and Burlak. I think those softs, even though it's 1 click difference in terms of being just a little softer, it's worked wonders for them. And by the way, answer to your question,
it was Potentia.
It was Potentia that they used in 2014 before becoming a full-blown engine constructor in 2015.
Which was the year they had Philip Pushka, because Pushka won the championship in Super Cup the year
in
before.
2014. Yeah. And then he won the Super League Championship in 2015.
Yeah, he did. And then that wasn't he only won Super Cup? Didn't Sven de Vries, he was like leading that championship, and then he just sort of got to a point in the season when he was like, I'm just going to quit because I want to take part in Super Cup, something like that. I remember you blowing up about
it was something along those lines, and the racer and competitor in me was like,
how dare he?
But anyway, that is a long time in the past. We need to look at the present now, and still the gap is not coming down. And, you know, honestly, at this point, it's lap 50, the end of lap 51, pretty much of 53. I think this race battle is done and dusted, and perhaps it was done and dusted by the time in that final stop, Michi.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I want to do the commentator's curse thing and saying, I do believe Alex Siebel has it right now, because there's 3 laps.
That's a risky move.
No, there's 3 laps to go, and Brilliak from out of nowhere now needs to gain 0.6 of a second per lap and do a move.
Yeah, he's got a back mark of Alex Keep, a previous Super League race winner, and also it's your team as well. So I mean, you sort of curse him as much as you want, mate. But it's a brave one. I'm sure Keeper, he's experienced enough to know when to move. Yeah, so we want to see him in the Nordschen still struggling. Fidek's obviously in 10th position at Nordschen. It's not been the greatest season of them. Obviously, previous Super League champions, race winners, pair of them. Well, yeah, not champion for people.
Well, it's strange to see Fidek, Gaia, and Cooper all struggling, because they all had such great years last year. To see them drop off dramatically is pretty bad. But
I know, all been the CSG days, or the what were they called? What was that group called? The CSG Midnight and all that. It's PG, something like that.
Yes, something on this. But I mean, regardless, I kind of put this point to people now in that it's all fair and well to talk about last year, but this is this year. We're 7 rounds in now, and it's very clear where in the pecking order they sit, as is the case now for your Siebels, your Burlaks, Jordan Costa, Fournier. These are the class of 2018 who are going to be fighting for the podiums. And if Fidek and Cooper and Gaia want to find their way back up the order, then they either need to, give a kick to the management to say, give me a better car, or they need to find better setups or more pace. Regardless, final lap then. And once again, Burlak bringing down the gap to 1.7, but it's oh so little, oh too late.
Yeah, it's a shame, because it's almost opposite of what could have been a decent battle, but Siebel's he's taken this and he's just driven the final stint that he absolutely needed to, started on the right foot and absolutely blasting away from Peter Burlak at a rate of knots. I think this race may come down to maybe even below a second between the two of them. Peter Burlak nails that final sector, but I say too little, too late.
And Michi, as you run towards the flag now, you've got a decent gap over your rival, regardless of what position it is, whether it's for a win or for a podium. Still a little bit scary, but for an experienced guy like Siebel, who's won so many races, not just in Super League, but in Super Cup last year as well, it's just pretty much going through the motions now.
Yeah, I think he knows exactly what's on the plate. Looking at his position right now in the championship, he has a 4-gap lead over teammate Risto Capit, who just runs an 8th. He has a 14-point lead over Jarl Tyne, who also just runs in 7th. So Peter Brodiak in 2nd position is currently 6th in the championship standings with a 55 points. So
Oh, Costa spun!
As yeah, Costa has spun, and it's down to P5. So no, Fournier's. To be fair, we're rounding the final corner now, so I had to talk at some point. Well, 2 retirements, and then Rudy Van Buren, eat your heart out. Alex Siebel takes his 5th result within the top 2 in 5 races. The only one which he hasn't won was at Monaco. Burlak takes P2. With Dennis Jordan, well, he's a ways back, isn't he? Goodness me, 26 seconds off of these two, and you were damn right, Lewis. Burlak was able to get it within a second. 1 more lap may very well have made the difference. Dennis Jordan then picks up his 3rd podium of the year in a rich vein of form. Is the German, and Fournier picking up the pieces of Costa's spin at the Mistral chicane. Fournier from pole finishes 4th with Costa P5. Kazdorp, a fantastic drive from the Dutchman, to take P6 for Adonis. I'm just going to have a little look at their stats. Yeah, that is almost their best result of the year. It's certainly their best since Australia, where they took P5. Jarl Tyne, yeah, indeed, Jarl Tyne from the back taking P7. So those two having brilliant drives through the field on very different strategies. Risto Capit, what a disappointing day at the office it's been for him. It's one thing to finish behind your teammate. It's another thing to finish 41 seconds behind your teammate. Bart DeVos, what a great return to the Super League for him. P9 for the Storm Drive. I'm pretty sure he's just standing in this time, but good thoughts for the Belgian. Fidek, consistent as always, taking on P10 ahead of Hutchinson, Kilk, Paulini, Parker, and Martini scoring a point on his WTF1 Super League debut. The rest of your finishers are Gaia, who just beats Chris Shepard to the line. So another non-point score for Street Fighter. Tida and Schultz are the other finishers, along with Cooper, Olsen, and Hoekstra. Retirements from this race: Veit, Duval, Milan, Yojovski, Gomez, and Horrell. And so, as we digest this race, we'll be back with a little bit of analysis, but I think we're going to quickly go to a short ad break now, because if you are interested in what we are doing here at the GPWC, and if you think, yeah, sure, I can be the next Super League driver, then let me introduce you on Tuesday night to the GPVWC Avid Chronic Racing Zach Speed Academy series. Garrett, play the tape and show them what it's all about.
I want to leap over buildings, want to fly over the shores, faster than a lightning flash, rushing through the cool night air. So start ignition, count to 0. I just wanna be a superhero. With fearless thoughts, emotions swirled, I wanna be the man that saves the world. So start ignition, count to 0. I just wanna be a superhero.
So welcome back then, as we continue to digest and take in the events of the WTF1 French Grand Prix. Lewis, ultimately a brilliant drive, it must be said, from Siebel He extends his gap in the championship yet again by an even bigger margin now, with Risto Capit finishing down in P8. Maybe a parallel. We were talking about Pushka, Philip Pushka near the end of that, of course, the 2015 Super League champion. German guy wins the Super Cup. German guy moves up to Team Liverpool, which it used to be Vobble Racing, now Avid Chronic Racing Zack Speed. Maybe fate is starting to play a role, but ultimately, well, could it have been Edge Esports' race to win? Maybe the wrong tire strategy.
Yeah, maybe the wrong tire strategy. But then, even if he was on supers, maybe he wouldn't have had the pace on that either. I mean, I think either way, it was just a really solid drive. I'm assuming Pittman sent you a message because he sent me the exact same thing. I was going to say that, but no, that's fine. I think big thing from this, maybe an opportunity missed from Epic Racing. Obviously, with Boy Milan, that's a bit of a rubbish situation. Fournier, though, pole position. Maybe the race win wasn't on the card, but you would have think surely a podium would have been in there. And to have missed out on that one, to have been in fourth position, not by much, but still fourth position. I know it's another excellent strategy from Dennis Jordan and the Evolution Motorsports team, but it's just, I don't know, maybe I feel like if you get a pole position, surely you've got the pace for the podium, surely.
Yeah, and Michi, to sort of bounce off that point, the second and third steps of the podium are almost like the plague for Epic Racing. They seem to avoid it. They've managed to take the top step in their first race in Super League. I think back to CSG Racing, previous Constructors Champions. They were able to do incredibly well, win, I think, their first race with a 1-2. But for Epic, it seems like it's a bit of a clunk back down to reality. Australia is one of those weird tracks where, you know, as long as you've got the best setup, you can do well, especially with all the cars equal. But maybe it's back to the drawing board. They've taken pole position, but they really need to work on perhaps the race speed over pure pace.
It's quite funny you mention it because as we speak of ACR Zack Speed right now being in a good position on GPVWC, on a funny side of things, in Formula Sim Racing, we are the sort of epic team, you know. We started into the season with a 1-2 lineup in Australia, finished first and third within 6 seconds of each other, and the entire grid was 25 seconds down by a mile. However, we were not able to some sort of repeat that sort of result ever again. So we just, like Epic, had a few podiums. Nevertheless, we just had a few top 10 positions in between. So one thing you definitely mentioned there is that Australia is something very special setup-wise. However, with it being the beginning of the season, you might just get some things very right in the first race. And, you know, everyone is doing debriefs. Everyone is analyzing the races. Peter Briljak will analyze today how Alex Siebel, on an equal amount of stops, but on harder compound, has been able to be quicker than him. So with all teams analyzing and improving the cars, the balances change quite a lot. Some teams are finding something on the setup, suddenly being up 3 or 4 tenths quicker than before. And, you know, if Epic just keeps in the same spot, not moving somewhere, you're going to get exactly the results they have gotten today. Having the best car, but it's also setup and driver that has to make the difference. And if those 3 parts not matching each other up right perfectly, you're not going to make it.
I feel like I was a bit overly harsh there on Epic, actually, to be fair. Good driver lineup, really solid car. I guess it's more a question of learning. They're only 7 races in to their Super League life. So we're actually going to have a little look at the standings after we've conducted interviews, by the way. Big thanks to Rick Scott. Provisional standings, it must be said, of course. The DC have to go away and do their work, and all sort of magical numbers happens after that. So in the meantime, while we're preparing the standings, let's have a little talk with some of the drivers and where to start. Let's begin with our race leader, shall we? Or our race winner, our championship leader, Alex Siebel. I noticed you're on mute. Alex, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Lovely. Great to have you with us. So, a bit of an interesting one. You didn't take pole position, but you were very quickly into the lead of the race. And it was a bit of a control job from there. You're able to manage the pace quite well. I must wonder, though, what was going through your head when you heard that Petter behind you was going to pit onto the Ultra Softs?
After during the second stint, I was aware of it. So I knew I will have a tire disadvantage because they of course, they have something over us or with tire wear. So I was aware of it, and I wanted to go way earlier for the last pit stop, but I had to clear Costa, and that forced me to go longer and longer and longer. And yeah, every lap more was really, really bad for me.
And ultimately, the gap actually, when you two crossed the line at the end of lap 53, was under a second. Do you reckon if it'd been one lap more, that might have been the race win gone?
Yeah, to be honest, I think so, because my tires went right over the cliff in the last corner. So
really,
it's really a huge job from Edge, and especially Petter with what he has done with his tires. It's amazing. I couldn't do it. That also harmed my second stint because I had to pit early. Yeah, but in the end, quite happy that the race just gone for 53 laps and not 54.
Oh, I bet. And in terms of your recent form, we're talking Rudy Van Buren types of domination here. 4 wins in your last 5. The only race which a win was a second position. It's kind of a strange position for you to be in, I imagine, to take the step up from Super Cup, where you were quite strong in Super Cup regardless. You dominated the campaign there as well. But to come up to Super League and have this sort of form, we're heading to the Red Bull ring next, of course. What's the mindset going into that one? Is there a lot of pressure to try and continue this rich vein of form? Or do you take each race as it comes, understanding that, yes, you've been in a good vein of form, but that could be dropped at any moment?
To be honest, I see every track more like how complicated the race will be. For example, Austria, a lot of slipstream, short circuit and stuff like this. So even if someone has a speed advantage over 0.2 seconds or so, it's all totally gone because of slipstream. So that will be a really tough race, and that's the way I judge the races. Austria, for example, is a kind of like that, yeah. But I'm looking forward for the races after Austria, because that should be quite more smooth.
Well, regardless, congratulations on your win, Alex. Your 4th of the campaign. I'm sure you're going to do a fine job in the rest of the season, regardless.
Thank you.
Cheers, Alex. And so next up, we're going to bring in the man who ultimately took second. And by Alex's own admission, might very well have won the race had the lap counter been 54 and not 53. Petter, you ran a very aggressive strategy going ultra super, ultra. We can't really see any other team in the field doing anything like that. And even compared to your own teammate, he went for as little stops as possible. Do you think that it was the right call to go on to ultras at the end? Because we heard from Alex, he had no choice. He had to go on to the softs to actually make it to the end of the race. But for you, it seemed like there was a bit more choice then. You made it to the ends on ultra.
Yeah, that was our plan all along to use. We optimized the setup for ultra, so it made sense to go ultra as much as possible. Yeah, some details just didn't fall into place. I mean, the first stint was a bit clumsy with Jeff and Costa. I overtook one car and got overtaken, so we lost a lot of time there. Yeah, and then I tried to save my tires first 2 stints, and then once I cleared Costa, I tried to get Alex, but yeah, it didn't quite happen in the end. I think I was losing a little bit on pit entries because I respected the white line, and I didn't really see that it was said you can cut it, so I was losing a little bit there. Maybe that decided it.
I definitely, I know the situation you're thinking of as well, considering Siebel was so aggressive on his pit entry in front of you when you both came in for your final stops. It's been a very up and down campaign for you, it must be said, but it seemed to all fall into place for this round. You had one of your best qualifying efforts of the year. You've come home second as well, so more good points for Edge Esports, especially considering Epic Racing only having one car make it to the end. It means that the Belgian outfit has now moved more clear of Epic Radical. What's the feeling like in the team? Because we were talking about the dynamic between yourself and Jarl in broadcast, how you're two very different styles of drivers. You're a little bit more conservative. You like to make sure that the move is absolutely 100% nailed on before you go for it, whereas Jarl's a bit like Daniel Ricciardo in that he'll go for those lunges, he'll go for the where other people will be a little bit scared. When it's off track, when it's in training, is it just a little bit more relaxed and chilled between you two?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's pretty important to have fun and have a good relationship. But talking about P2 and consistency, I hope I finally catch some, because I have one decent race and one disaster, and it has been like that all season. Except, well, now I had two normal-ish races, so that's a positive. And of course, we're aiming to win.
Well, you are currently on an upward trend, a 4th in Canada, a 2nd in France. I wonder whether you're going to take the win in Austria. We'll find out. Petter, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And so we're going to have time for one more interview, and I think it is very much worth, with no 3rd place in sight, to bring in someone who had an absolute stormer of an event. Yuri Kasdorp, you started right near the back, along with Jarl Tyen, and the two of you just had incredible races. The only two people in the field to stop. For you in particular, it worked out massively. You've taken Adonis Engineering's 2nd best result of the season in that race.
Yeah, it's been unfortunate for us so far, but the race was really good. I wasn't expecting this at all.
So was it more just a hope that the alternative strategy works and that you're able to pick up a couple of points? And I guess more importantly, is there that little faith in the car? Because we've seen that your development has been a little bit all over the place.
No, we've got a good upgrade coming next round. It should be better. And the pace was there, but I had a 10 plays grid penalty. So I did one lap on Ultras, thinking that if I could qualify top 5, I could start like 15th, which was acceptable. I think I qualified 7th with that, and then I went to the mediums, scrapped the Ultras lap, and just stayed behind for the first and then tried to go long.
And so let's talk a little bit more about Adonis actually in what is their worst start to a campaign in the Super League. We've seen even the most experienced outfits such as Hawkeye have one season where their form just completely tanks, and they've managed to work their way back up to one of the top 5 outfits again. For Adonis Engineering, is it just a case of just trying to do as much damage limitation as possible this year and then maybe looking forward to 2019 rising back up?
No, we're looking to come back to top 5 this season. We've had the pace. I think we've had 3 times that we DNF from a top 5 position, but it's just been unfortunate for us. Like last round, my internet somehow didn't work. I couldn't join the server. It's just been bad luck so far, at least in my part. And then pace is there. I think if I started the front now, I could have challenged for a podium. And I know that Aaron's faster. So the plan's to get back from next race on.
Well, you know what? I like the optimism. I like the guile, and I like the mission. Best of luck to you, and best of luck to Adonis Engineering as well. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
And so brings to an end the WTF1 French Grand Prix broadcast. We do all hope you enjoyed, and let's get some final thoughts here then. Michi, I hope you've enjoyed your time with us, Carl, seeing the race as well. It must be a little bit different looking from the outside in for once.
Yes, indeed. I mean, usually I do watch races where I'm not involved, a little bit different than today, but it was a good experience. I enjoyed my time with you guys, and I hope everyone else out on watching the streams enjoyed it as well.
And Lewis, of course, for the championship. It's looking so good for Alex Siebel, but again, it's only mid-season. We're not at crunch time. There's still plenty of different varied tracks to go. And just because he's gotten the upper hand here today, it doesn't mean that that's going to be the situation in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, well, it's still like I think it's about 11 rounds to go. You know, we've got a long way to go in this championship. A lot of development to do on these cars. You hear the confidence there from Yuri about the position that Edness is going to be moving up in. Obviously, he's not just going to be moving towards the front and winning the championship. But what I'm saying is the development that we have in Super League is unlike in any other series in sim racing. It's long term. It's not just you all driving the same car. Let's hope for the best. These teams have to be thinking long term. 11 rounds to go, very, very long time to go. And so we can see a rapid change around. We see it in Formula One all the time. We saw it with Ferrari and Mercedes last season, where it was close until it just wasn't, and then Mercedes disappeared off into the distance. We could see that here in the F1 Super League. It could be super, super good towards the end of the season. It could end up gapping as we go. We'll have to wait and see. I'm sure we're going to have a nice, close, tight finish for this 2018 season.
I am 100% in agreement there. If you guys are interested in what more GPVWC has to offer, then do not fret, because next week we have two fantastic and very different events lined up for you. Of course, the aforementioned Academy Series is back on Tuesday as guys try to pit their wits against the Red Bull Ring. Lots of names, both casters and wannabes and just casual drivers alike. It's sure to be a fun time for sure. And then make sure to join us in a week as the World GT Championship returns. We're heading to Britain, to Silverstone, to see, as we enter the final stages there, how the championship is going to shape out. Of course, Risto Capet didn't do well here today, but he's well and truly in the championship fight and actually leading that championship fight over in the tin tops. And of course, you have to be back here in 2 weeks' time when the career ladder comes in earnest to the Red Bull Ring. Formula Challenge on the Tuesday. Wednesday brings the Super Cup. And if you're just looking to join us here on the WTF1 Facebook page, then Thursday, 2 weeks' time, is the place to be as we take you around the Austrian Grand Prix. A big thank you to our cameraman for today, Garrett De Vries, for doing a fantastic job as always. A massive thank you to my two guest stars for today, Michi Hoyer and Lewis Mcglade. I've been James Kirk, and from all of us here, it is a very warm goodbye.
To keep up to date with the latest GPVWC videos, click on the subscribe button, or check out more of our exciting sim racing action by choosing a video. For more information on the league, visit gpvwc.com.